For me, I'm gonna say for now, this is an overreaction. Buried him in the turf with his chin wrapped around his nostrils. He called a timeout. Good wherewithal by Eli. Great wherewithal.
Put this to music. I don't think he stepped out either. That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen.
Welcome into another edition of the Giant Overreaction. And boy, are we seeing some overreactions in the chat for sure. A lot of them very legitimate. Definitely spent like the first couple of minutes here as I pulled up backstage here, just reading through the comments, section. A lot of frustrations to go over here, man. The New York Giants fall to the Kansas City Chiefs in a must-win for both teams. Both teams coming in at 0-2. The Giants needed this game. The Chiefs absolutely needed this game. This one's going to be a bit of a slow burner today, so pull up a chair, son. Let's put one in the air, son, because definitely going to be a vibe today. We got a lot to talk about as far as New York Giants football goes here. Giants, last team to get their home opener of any team in the NFL. They end up losing to the Kansas City Chiefs 22-9. The Giants finished 2023 winning 4 of their last 7 games, y'all. And that was a debacle of a season in its own where we won 6 games. Since then, Brian Daboll is 3-17. That is just not a good look. Y'all know that I've been a big supporter of Brian Daboll, but the results are just not there right now. The Giants have won just 1 of their last 15 games. Shout out to Bobby Skinner for digging that one up. And Brian Daboll falls to 2-9 on primetime now. This is starting to get very, very, very redundant. And I do understand the frustrations around the fan base. I've been trying to kind of keep my cool because some of this was to be expected, but I just don't think that we thought that this was going to be the team that we were going to see that was going to go out there on the field for the New York Giants in 2025. A lot of hope coming out of the preseason, a lot of hype coming out of the preseason as well. And I think both of those words, hype and hope, those are 2 words that you really got to be wary about when it comes to the NFL. You know, they play these games for a reason. The New York Giants have now gone through 3 games and have lost all 3 of those games. Consecutive seasons where you do not have a field goal kicker ready to go out there and kick at bare minimum some short field goals and some extra points. I know Graham Gano went out there and he made that 1 short field goal, but nonetheless, you've never seen anything like this. You've never seen this kind of incompetent coaching. Really, this is stuff that you don't even see on the high school level, like where you just do not have a backup plan for what is happening with the New York Giants kicker situation. And you can't forget that Graham Gano is 38 years old. This is a tough show. This is probably the toughest show of the last 2 years because last year we were just trying to get out of the mud. And I felt like, you know, as we moved on from the quarterback position that the Giants were sort of getting out of the mud. But then when you see the way that this offense goes out here and has performed in 2 out of the 3 games, it definitely leaves a lot to be desired. We're going to tap in with the chat here shortly. Do want to kind of go through a bit of an opener here, get through this game, talk about some of the deficiencies that we saw on both sides of the ball. This was another game where the New York Giants couldn't get it clicking on all 3 phases all together, and that has been the theme of the 2025 season for the New York Giants thus far. But let's go ahead and talk about it, man. The Kansas City Chiefs traveled to MetLife to take on the New York Giants.
They have, statistically, I think the hardest schedule.
I like the team. I like the chemistry. I like the leadership. We had a good training camp. We had a good spring. Now we're 2 weeks away. We have to go out and do it.
We have another fucking opportunity. Put that in the line. That's on me. That's on me. 1, 2, 3. They get it blocked up. There could be an opportunity, Bob. Drops back. Has time. Deep ball. Downfield. Looking for Neighbors. Who makes the catch for the touchdown?
Man, that's very bittersweet looking at some of those highlights from the Dallas Cowboys game. But this graphic that you're seeing on the screen here is actually a graphic from the beginning of the season. You know, to me, it all starts up front. You got to find ways to support your quarterback. The trenches is very important, but it's all about stopping the run, and it's all about RTDB. And I thought the Giants did a pretty decent job in supporting the quarterback in this game. yesterday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, and I know a lot of the results look very similar to what we saw in week 1 against the Washington Commanders, where the offense just could not score. And I just thought it was so important to come into this game and try to establish the run. If you've been paying attention to some of the tweets I've been putting out leading up to this game against the Kansas City Chiefs, I talked about wanting to see a rushing attack that was spearheaded, quite literally, by Cam Skattebo. And we did get a chance to see that in this game, and I think that it did answer a few questions. There's still a lot to be desired here, but the New York Giants running backs came into this game averaging 47 rushing yards per game. Now, that's just the running backs, because Russell Wilson was the leading rusher for the New York Giants coming into this game. I loved the emphasis on the first couple of drives from Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka, just emphasizing the run, going straight at the Kansas City Chiefs defense. When I posted that to Twitter, a lot of people were telling me that, do you really expect the Giants to be able to try to run the ball against one of the better interior defensive lines in the league? And I said, yeah. For me, it was not a results-based thing. I just wanted to see Brian Daboll commit to it. You saw him commit to Tyrone Tracy. Tyrone Tracy got the first 5 touches of the game. 5 rushes for 23 yards. He was averaging 4.6 yards per carry, and then ultimately ended up having to leave the game early with a big shoulder injury. It was a big hit, big collision. Now, Cam Skattebo was the lone bright spot for the New York Giants offense in this game. 10 rushes, 60 yards, averaging 6 yards per carry. He had 1 touchdown. He led the New York Giants in receiving yards. He led the New York Giants in receptions. These are things that we know are not a recipe to actually get us a victory. But that was the one bright spot on the offensive side of the ball, was Cam Skattebo. Now, I say we had some questions answered and others weren't answered, but I do think that moving forward, it's got to be Cam Skattebo that's going to lead this running back by committee situation. The questions that I wanted answered was, could Cam Skattebo be a running back 1 in this league? I don't think that question was quite answered on Sunday, but definitely Cam Skattebo showing you that he can be a weapon on this offense. It's not going to be a shiny weapon that's going to be able to create massive explosive plays. In fact, the New York Giants just could not get explosive plays in this game generated basically at all. I remember looking up in the second half and seeing that the New York Giants basically had no explosive plays from the wide receiver core. And that's just unacceptable. You know, I know that these weapons are not the desirable weapons that I'll speak for myself that I wanted coming into this season, and there were question marks in the wide receiver core for me. I wanted the New York Giants to address that, and it's bittersweet watching guys like Torrey Horton go out there with the Seattle Seahawks and show you that he is absolutely on his way to being a wide receiver 2 and a guy that can contribute in the special teams department as well, which the New York Giants struggled in that realm of things as well. But we talked about all the wide receivers we wanted to see from the New York Giants as far as the draft goes, and the Giants went out there and decided to not draft any wide receivers and bring in any true weapons. We did draft Thomas Fidone on day 3, and you brought in Cam Skattebo in the 4th round. And I think Skattebo will be able to contribute, but considering the just lack of guys that can go down the field and make plays, and I know the Dallas Cowboys game was absolutely a bit of an anomaly, and when you look at the way that the Chicago Bears performed against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday, it kind of lets you know everything you needed to know about the Dallas Cowboys defense, who is allowing opponents to score over 30 points per game over the first 3 games. So, you know, I wanted to see how the New York Giants were going to come out here as an offense and perform, and we didn't get what we wanted. And I think it's safe to say the Dallas Cowboys defense was the reason why the New York Giants performed the way that they did in week 2. Now, as far as stopping the run, the Giants came in dead last in the NFL coming into this game against the Chiefs. They were allowing 177.5 rushing yards per game. Week 1, we allowed 220 to the Commanders on the ground. Week 2, we allowed 136 to Javonte Williams and the Dallas Cowboys. And week 3 against Kansas City Chiefs, the Giants allowed 108 total rushing yards on 25 attempts. So not great, if you ask me, especially considering that the Kansas City Chiefs are a bit of a middle-of-the-pack type of rushing offense. Mahomes came in leading the Kansas City Chiefs in rushing, and Mahomes and Russell Wilson were the only 2 quarterbacks left that were leading their teams in rushing entering week 3. Kansas City's averaging 108 rushing yards per game on the season, and we allowed 108 total rushing yards from the Kansas City Chiefs. So not all that great if you ask me, but it was good enough to support your quarterback, to be able to go out there and give your quarterback and your offense a chance to be able to win this game. Patrick Mahomes came in leading the NFL in explosive runs, like not just quarterbacks, that includes running backs. He had the most in the league, and I thought that the Giants did a pretty decent, sufficient job of trying to keep him in the pocket, generating some quick pressures. I know a lot of people had beef with Abdul Carter about how he was approaching Patrick Mahomes For me, it's just the opposite. When you're going up against quarterbacks like that, you can't just take a beeline angle and try to go right at them because those are the type of quarterbacks that are going to make you miss. But the Kansas City Chiefs, I thought, had decent success on the ground, enough to support their quarterback as well. But they just didn't really have to commit to the rushing attack either. I mean, in the first quarter, they had 5 attempts. In the second quarter, they had 4 attempts. By the time we got to the half, they had 9 rushes for 43 yards. So they just didn't really commit to it. But I thought the defense did a good job of playing bend, don't break, and giving the New York Giants offense plenty of opportunities. The Giants defense held the Kansas City Chiefs to 3 field goals on the first 3 drives. And Harrison Butker ended up missing one of those 3. So you're looking at being down just 6-0 on the scoreboard. And we did score our own touchdown and gave ourselves an opportunity to stay within this game. The Kansas City Chiefs were giving us opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And it's just unfortunate that when our defense does give us these chances and teams' offenses give us these chances, it just so happens that the New York Giants offense is just basically non-existent. I thought that the Giants defense played fair throughout the day, but there was a big window late in this game, just over 9 minutes left in the game. 3rd and 6 for the Kansas City Chiefs. The Giants were down by 7 at this point in the game. And Shane Bowen and the Giants defense allowed Mahomes to connect to Tyquan Thornton for a big pickup on 3rd down. And then you saw Patrick Mahomes hit Tyquan Thornton one more time for a huge touchdown. They go to the replay. You see that the ball was incomplete. And then I tweeted out deja vu. And a lot of Giants fans thought that I meant deja vu as far as the way that the season is progressing, which you could apply it to that 2 birds, 1 stone type of vibe there. But I was more applying that to Tyquan Thornton, who dropped that touchdown and then came right back on the same drive and caught a big play, got downed at the 1-yard line. And then Kareem Hunt ends up punching it in, and the Chiefs ended up going up 22-9. And that was pretty much all she wrote. And all in all, I thought the Giants defense, it was an okay performance, but it was not good enough. Just 2 sacks on Patrick Mahomes. I haven't had a chance to look at the pressures yet, but it just seemed like very similar to what we saw in week 1, that even when the Giants were getting pressure on the quarterback like we did against Jaden Daniels and like we were doing against Patrick Mahomes, when you got great quarterbacks like that are a bit of dual threat, I'll put Patrick Mahomes in the dual threat conversation gladly. And we all know Jaden Daniels is in that conversation. But when you have those kind of quarterbacks, when they're under duress, they're not uncomfortable. And I think that is the reason, or more reasons, why Giants fans want to see Jackson Dart take over. As early as of today, there are Giants fans that want Jackson Dart to start next week this week against the Los Angeles Chargers. And I got no pushback against that. You know, when you're looking at a defense going out there and allowing 22 points, you know, granted, they only got after the quarterback the 2 times. But if your offense comes out there and can play just average ball and, you know, just score a few points, get near 20, then this would be a game. Instead, the New York Giants offense goes out there and they score 9 points, which is absolutely pathetic. You don't got a kicker to go out there. The Chiefs defense knew all along that the New York Giants offense was going to struggle. And when it came down to 4th down, it was going to be an issue because the Giants didn't have a kicker that was going to be able to go out there. Now, I gave Brian Dable a pass on the kicker situation last year with the Washington game because Graham Gano came into that game healthy. It's not like Graham Gano tweaked his groin before the game when we were playing against the Washington Commanders last year. He tweaked it on the opening kickoff. And Austin Eckler ended up taking that kickoff basically 100 yards into the end zone. A penalty brought it back. And I highlighted that play in that week 2 matchup last season, and you could see Graham Gano running full speed. Didn't look like the groin was an issue at all. Looks like he gets sniped when the groin does give him a problem, falls to the ground and whatnot, and then he can't kick for the rest of the game. Now, knowing that your kicker has had groin issues over the last couple of years, knowing that your kicker is 38 years old, knowing that you really should have just moved on from Graham Gano in the offseason, and I could add Jamie Gillen into that conversation as well, because when you don't have a backup plan at the kicker position, normally the backup plan is your punter. But it presents a juxtaposition for the New York Giants because Jamie Gillen is the holder. And I've seen now 2 times where Jamie Gillen has lined up to kick either a short field goal or an extra point, and the ball just hits the back of his lineman. And that's just unacceptable. I've seen teams like, I want to say it was the Buffalo Bills, using a running back to kick an extra point, and it went through the uprights. This is the NFL. We got nothing but athletes out there. I remember Chad Johnson going out there kicking field goals for the Cincinnati Bengals. Why can we not find somebody that can go out there and be a backup option to kick these field goals or kick these extra points is absolutely beyond me. And it just points to the deficiencies that we are having right now within the coaching staff. Now, let's talk about the quarterback position a little bit here. Y'all know that's my favorite. And this was a very forgettable performance from Russell Wilson. 18 of 32, 5 yards per attempt, 160 yards through the air, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he was just forcing the ball down the field. You could tell that Brian Daboll knew that they were going to play us too high safety and try to take away the big play. Now, in my opinion, if the New York Giants were going to be able to have success stretching the field, taking the top off of these secondaries in this game against the Chiefs, it was going to be right down the middle of the field. And it had to be with either Wan'Dale Robinson or when you got those opportunities with Darius Slayton in those one-on-one matchups, Russell Wilson was going to have to capitalize on that and be very accurate. This was another game where Russell Wilson down the field was a bit inaccurate. The second interception to Malik Nabers on the right sideline, I thought that he made the right read. It was a one-on-one, right? A very rare one-on-one situation with Malik Nabers, and I thought he made the right read. Also thought that Malik Nabers has to try to find a way to bail his quarterback out. You're running out of real estate in the back of the end zone. You can't just keep running to the back pylon when the ball comes up short. You got to find a way to slow down, be able to gauge that ball, and be able to high point that ball. That was something that I thought that Travis Hunter did extremely well at Colorado with Shedeur Sanders, who was religiously known for underthrowing the deep ball. But Travis Hunter had this knack of being able to gauge the ball very early on through his trajectory through the air and be able to slow down and be able to give his quarterback the best opportunity to be able to catch those passes. Now, Malik Nabers normally does a great job of that. I can't put the blame on Malik, but I do think that that's a situation where you want to see your wide receiver bail the quarterback out and be able to live to play another down and try to be able to take another shot down the field in this game. Now, Russell Wilson, quarterback rating 43.8 is just unacceptable. He was sacked 2 times on the day. One of them was late in the game. And I thought Russell Wilson was pressing a little bit, but I thought a lot of it came from the game plan. Establish the run early on the first 2 drives, and then we'll try to open things up and take shots down the field. I tweeted this out in the second half of the game. I said, third quarter is coming to an end, and Russell Wilson has just 39 yards passing. The Giants' offense versus the Cowboys looks like an anomaly, considering we just saw Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears put 30-plus on the Cowboys' head today. It feels like we are back to square one if nothing changes, and really nothing changed in this game. And at the half, Russell Wilson had 39 yards passing. He went through the third quarter without gaining a single yard through the air. 2 interceptions at the half. The Giants averaged 3.9 yards per play at the half as well, with support from the running game. 75 yards rushing at the half, and you held the Chiefs to just 43 yards rushing at the half. This should have been a game where the New York Giants were more in it. And quite frankly, I thought the Giants should have had the lead at the half, but the offense just not getting it going. Can't go without talking about that red zone sequence at the end of the game, down 22-9 with 3 minutes, 14 seconds left in the game. You get 4 opportunities to try to put the ball in the end zone. Russell Wilson throws the ball out the back of the end zone on first down. Okay, we live to see another down. Second down, Brian Daboll has a designed quarterback draw for Russell Wilson. I did not understand that play call, and I got to put that one on Mike Kafka, who is obviously calling plays for the Giants in the 2025 season. But then third down, Russell Wilson trying to buy time. It's an all sticks concept. I don't know what we're doing. It reminded me a lot of Jason Garrett. He throws the ball out the back of the end zone. I go, okay, it's fourth down. There's no way that Russell Wilson's going to throw the ball out the back of the end zone again, right? And he found a way to throw the ball out the back of the end zone. As a savvy veteran quarterback that Russell Wilson is, that is absolutely unacceptable on fourth down. That's worse than Daniel Jones taking a sack on third down behind the line of scrimmage like we've seen a ton during his tenure with the New York Giants. It's really, as I saw Bobby Skinner tweet out, the worst sequence we've ever seen in the red zone from a Giants quarterback. The only other one that I think could maybe rival this was, I want to say it was 2020 or 2021. I think it was 2020. It was the year that Saquon Barkley blew his knee out. So it was it was 2020 because 2019 Saquon still got over 1,000 yards. We were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers in primetime, and Daniel Jones on a second down or third down play rolled to his left and nothing there, And he tries to kind of throw the ball out the back of the end zone, but the ball doesn't get there, and the Pittsburgh Steelers got the interception. But this is really a hold my beer type of situation for Daniel Jones as far as the way Russell Wilson played those 4 plays within the red zone. In my notes here, these are my bruh kind of statistics here for Russell Wilson. I don't know that I've seen a QBR this low in all my years of looking at football and looking at QBR on ESPN. Russell Wilson's QBR was 6.5. I've never seen no shit like that, y'all. The Giants were 1 of 10 on third down. That's now 11 of 40 on third down in 3 games. The Giants are now converting on 27% of their third downs. They were just 1 for 3 in the red zone. Our wide receivers had 2 receptions entering the fourth quarter, and Malik Nabers had 0 receptions in the first 3 quarters of this game. Now, the beat reporters did ask Brian Daboll about this. I thought it was the most pathetic answer. This didn't even sound like a knowledgeable fan going out there and speaking to the press. And I like that Pat Leonard and Jordan Renan kind of pressed the issue with Brian Daboll here. And this is what Brian Daboll had to say about Malik Nabers not getting the ball. Let me turn this up here a little bit for y'all. I thought this was just an absolutely pathetic answer, but this is what Brian Daboll had to say at the press conference after the fact.
Why do you think you couldn't get Malik the ball? He obviously didn't have a catch going into the fourth quarter there.
Yeah, we got to do a better job with that. No question about it.
What do you attribute that to? Game plan, quarterback?
Probably a collection of everything, Pat. Probably a collection of everything. Again, they were playing a lot of split safety coverage. They played it last week. Could be just a little bit different, but I'd say a collection of all that. We certainly got to do a better job with it.
So for me, and if you couldn't hear it, I know it's very noisy in the background, but Pat Leonard asked him, like, what was the issue? Do you attribute that to quarterback? What is that game plan? And he says, probably a little bit of everything. Brian Daboll is getting paid handsomely, y'all. And he's not getting paid to come up to the podium at the end of games and say probably. To me, that's fan talk right there. I need to know exactly why. And he also talked about the Kansas City Chiefs playing too high and playing too high the week before. So this means that you saw this on tape. So, why weren't you ready? Malik Nabers ended this game with 2 receptions for just 13 yards on 7 targets. And when you look at the 7 targets, 90% of the targets were not catchable passes. His longest reception on the day was 9 yards. This is Malik Nabers' first game under 50 yards as a pro. I just don't understand that, knowing coming into this game that the Kansas City Chiefs were going to play too high, middle of the field open, why are we not attacking the middle of the field more? And Brian Daboll says probably, maybe that has to do with the quarterback, maybe that has to do with the game plan. We all know that. Russell Wilson has struggled to throw the ball across the middle on the intermediate level basically throughout his entirety of his career. So we know that that is a thing. And the one play that I thought was a decent play on the day, it was late. I want to say it was the last drive of the game for the New York Giants, where Russell Wilson hits Wan'Dale Robinson across the middle. It's a great throw. I just don't understand why we can't get more consistency out of that. We're still not approaching our game plan with 12 and 13 personnel and trying to get our tight ends more involved and create matchups that, instead of having DBs covering our slot wide receiver and the rest of the wide receiver core, we could possibly have linebackers out there that will be covering some of these tight ends that we have on this roster. And Daniel Bellinger, another 1 target, 1 catch game, right? Just catching everything. But you're just not seeing our coaching staff create mismatches. But that also has to point to the personnel, because the Giants just don't have the personnel. You basically have 3 average-ass tight ends on this roster. The one guy who catches the ball the most in the tight end core is basically never on the field. And if you go back and you look at the Theo Johnson reception, where Theo Johnson catches that short route and ultimately gains about 6 extra yards by just churning his feet and pushing his way down the field, focus on Daniel Bellinger on that play, because that play was on a play that was on 12 personnel with 2 tight ends on the field. And Daniel Bellinger is the main guy pushing Theo Johnson down the field and getting the extra yards. I can't continue to keep talking about Daniel Bellinger deserving more opportunities, more snaps, more targets. I can't. But Daboll just seems to be completely in over his head right now. And just a coach that is unprepared. You know, when Giants fans say we're going out there and our team is unprepared, I think it's a real blanket statement that Giants fans like to say, because if we're getting the results, right, I don't think Giants fans would say that. If we would have went out there and won that game last night, ugly as hell, as ugly as it was, I don't think Giants fans would be saying Brian Daboll came in unprepared. But it just so happens that in this situation, it's 100% accurate. The Giants just aren't prepared. You knew the game plan, and Brian Daboll snitched on himself. He said, we saw this last week from them playing too high. So why are you not prepared? Why are we not getting a more heavy dosage of a running attack from the New York Giants? I want to look at the final numbers here that I have them. So at the end of the day, the Giants rushed the ball 27 times in this game. And y'all know, if you pay attention to the previews that we do, me and the Beard don't care if you run the ball every damn play. We don't care. If you can't get your passing attack clicking, just run the ball every play. I will much rather see Cam Scatterbo get 3 opportunities, Giants go 3 and out, and we punt the ball, rather than seeing this stagnant version of the New York Giants offense with Russell Wilson at the quarterback position. But this is the thing. At the end of the day, we can't just continue to point the finger at the quarterback position, because our problems go far beyond the quarterback position. And we knew coming into the season that Russell Wilson is not the future. We knew that. The goal was to bring Russell Wilson into the New York Giants organization to be able to have a bridge quarterback so that we wouldn't have to throw our rookie to the wolves. But more importantly, Russell Wilson was brought here to win games. And if you want Russell Wilson to win games, then you have to give him the supporting surrounding cast around him that gives him that opportunity to win games. When you game plan for the New York Giants, it's just stop Malik Nabers. And I posted every passing play from the New York Giants offense from the coaches film, the All 22, on our YouTube channel right before I went live, a couple of hours before. So if you want to check it out so you can see it for yourself. We just lack the necessary weapons. And the way that the Chiefs took away Malik Nabers in this game, teams are going to study the way that the Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo did that, and expect a lot more of that. Expect it where you start to see linebackers paying attention to Malik Nabers at the same time that he's being bracketed by a cornerback and a safety. If you look at that tape, and I definitely encourage everybody to go check it out on the channel, not for the clicks, not for the views, because I don't give a fuck about none of that shit. And honestly, those videos don't even get monetized because the NFL owns that particular content. But check it out for yourself. You'll have a cornerback right on Malik. You have a safety right over the top, and then you'll have a linebacker pretty much peeking and seeing if Malik Nabers is going to try to work his way to the interior portion of the field. And if that's the case, he's going to get blown up by a linebacker. Now, I proposed this question after the Washington loss because I felt that a lot of our fan base was being a little bit egregious as far as the expectations for this team. And after week 1, I said, when you get angry at the New York Giants, ask yourself again, are the New York Giants in the middle of a rebuild? And a lot of fans were saying, oh, not really. We're kind of trying to win. You know, we can compete. We got enough people on this roster. Our defense is good enough. We got a top 10 defense out there, which is it's not looking like that right now. And I think that a lot of us are just fooling ourselves because for me, as soon as you go out there and you allow Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen to draft their quarterback and you bring in Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson, which is really a bit of double dipping that you really didn't need to do. You could have just brought one of them in. I knew that the New York Giants were in a rebuild at that point in time, right? And the offensive line pieces that we have, that's Thanksgiving leftovers from last year because that offensive line was built for Daniel Jones. That was a Band-Aid version of an offensive line rebuild for Daniel Jones because you're bringing in guys that are getting up there in age, and Jermaine Illuminor, John Runyon, who was just finishing out his rookie contract with the Green Bay Packers, Greg Van Roten. You brought in guys like Aaron Stinney. All these guys are older pieces that are not going to be here for the future of the New York Giants when we do start actually winning games and start being able to compete and start trying to really get to the playoffs, and you feel comfortable about that going into the year. Anybody that thought the New York Giants were a playoff team at the beginning of the year, and I'm not writing them off 100%, but it's basically all but over as far as the playoffs go, right? But anybody that thought this was a 10-win team or an 11-win team, or, you know, I heard the rhetoric going around a lot that this was a good team, and I didn't see that because why weren't you saying this was a good team last year, or at least saying this was a good offense last year? minus the quarterback. But maybe some people thought that. Maybe some people thought that Daniel Jones was literally just this huge problem that you couldn't win games with Daniel Jones. But I thought that Brian Daboll kind of proved that in 2022 that you could win games with Daniel Jones. It's bigger than the quarterback position. And I thought as I was watching WFAN today with Sal Licata and BT, they had a caller call in. And I normally don't agree with Sal Licata a lot. But on this particular take, and this is not necessarily a giant overreaction, but I did want to share this clip with y'all. I thought Sal was spot on. Take a look at this, y'all.
I mean, it's like Groundhog Day. Another putrid offensive performance. The defensive part. I mean, the defense was all right. It wasn't terrible, holding the 22 points, but it's just like deja vu all over again. There is no trust in this regime. And to your point, I don't trust them to put Dart out there. They're going to ruin the kid. There's been no creativity on the offense. I don't care what quarterback you put out there. And then you look at the whole Daniel Jones situation. I hate to bring this up, but now he's got a similar situation of what he was with the Giants, where he had a great running back. You know, the offensive line wasn't great, but look what he's doing compared to what he didn't do in New York.
Yeah.
It's the coach's fault.
But
I
then,
don't trust them to put Dart out there. Plain and simple. I know it has to happen. We have to see what this kid is made of at some point, but this regime has got to go. Like, it's over at this point.
Think about what you're saying, John. I think you're onto something. Thank you for the call. It's not about the quarterback. Like right now, we're making it about Jackson Dart because we're excited about it. That's how it was years ago with Daniel Jones. And we've seen Daniel Jones have some success, but obviously not nearly enough. And now look at what he's doing in 3 games with the Indianapolis Colts. So it can't. It's clearly not just about the quarterback. It's clearly not about Saquon Barkley and not building around a running back. Like, there are issues here that the Giants have inherently that are problematic. They scored, like, Jackson Dart, if he were running the offense, would not have scored as many points as Russell Wilson did a week ago in Dallas. He can't do those things. Now, he would have done it differently, more sustainable, sure. But they still lost that game. So, obviously, it's not. I know we're going to talk about Dart, and that's what it seems like it's all about. It's only because that's the last line of hope that could be tangible. But in reality, it's much, much bigger and deeper than just the quarterback.
I love that take right there. You know, minus a few little things there maybe with the hypotheticals on Jackson Dart. But Sal made a really great point. He said he has a great running back. Speaking about Jonathan Taylor over there with the Indianapolis Colts, right? And that was the situation that Daniel Jones was in with the New York Giants. And I think a lot of people forget, right? You know, the rhetoric that spun around the Giants community, especially from the fan base, right, was that, oh, Saquon Barkley wouldn't be doing that here. You notice you not hearing that about Daniel Jones? A lot of people forget that this is not the same rendition of the New York Giants that was here when Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley were here. Saquon Barkley never got a chance to run behind this particular version of this offensive line that we saw. At the end of the day, I've seen Daniel Jones play good football on Sundays before. We all know that the biggest issue was consistency. I will continue to talk about that, right? But look at the teams that Daniel Jones has beat. And this is not to take away anything away from Daniel Jones. He's out there. He's 3-0. He's winning games. He's showing you that if you put a competent roster around a quarterback like him that I would consider as an average quarterback. In Daniel Jones' prime with the New York Giants, I told Lawrence Tynes, the former kicker for the New York Giants, that Daniel Jones is a tick above average because of the dual threat capabilities that he has at the quarterback position. He is now the only quarterback to start a season in the first 3 weeks with 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns, and 0 turnovers. And when Daniel Jones is playing at the high level that people know he is capable of playing at, that's what you're going to get from Daniel Jones. But Daniel Jones has gone out there and beaten the Tennessee Titans with the rookie quarterback, the Miami Dolphins that are just a complete fucking shit show right now, and an impressive win against a really good Denver Broncos team that is led by a really good defense. But tally that all up. Those 3 teams have a combined record of 1-8 right now. And didn't I warn y'all about the Denver Broncos? Everybody is talking about the Denver Broncos are going to be this dark horse to win that division. And I just don't see it because dating back to last year, remember I told y'all this. And when I say stuff a lot, it lingers in my mind. The Denver Broncos beat 1 team last year over 500 in all 10 of their victories. Technically 2 teams, but the Kansas City Chiefs rested their starters in that Week 18 matchup that allowed Bo Nix to go out there and beat the Chiefs and get to the playoffs, because had the Denver Broncos lost that game to the Kansas City Chiefs, which they likely would have if the Chiefs started their first team unit, the Cincinnati Bengals would then have gotten into the playoffs, and that would have been a scary situation for the entire AFC conference because Joe Burrow was playing lights out. He won his last 5 games of 2024 season. Instead, the Denver Broncos get in, and now you get all this hype and all this hope surrounding the Denver Broncos. In my opinion, the Denver Broncos are still a pretty damn good team. But as far as, maybe representing the AFC conference or representing that AFC division, I don't see that happening. Now, Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka found a way to get consistent results out of Daniel Jones and the New York Giants offense in 2022. But you got to go back. A lot of that was led by Saquon Barkley. A lot of it. You look at how the New York Giants got off to the 6-1 start and how they did it. Even the first victory of the season against the Tennessee Titans, Saquon Barkley put this team on his back. And Saquon was known for doing that, right? And that is why people said you don't build around a running back. But I think it was clear as day. If the Giants were building around a running back, don't you think they would have fucking boosted up this offensive line during Saquon Barkley's time here? They didn't. So they weren't building around a running back. They were trying to find ways to compete while trying to rebuild. They came in here with the right plan. They declined the 5th-year option on Daniel Jones, and then they won too many games in 2022 with a very light, lackluster schedule that allowed them to do that. And that doesn't take away the impressive wins that they had that year against the Green Bay Packers, against the Baltimore Ravens. Those were impressive wins. But at the end of the day, this offense is not the same offense that we saw back then. We saw a dual-threat quarterback running a ton of RPO with one of the greatest running backs that we've seen in the last decade. And that will go down as probably one of the greatest running backs that the game has ever seen. And it's unfortunate that he's no longer in blue. And I think that during the commotion of the Saquon Barkley situation, Joe Schoen did a good job of confusing fans and thinking that, hey, we can devalue this position, and all in all, we don't need the best players on our team if they want to get paid. What's crazy about it is we're talking about $15 million a year, right? That's what we're talking about. Look at these big, lengthy contracts that we just brought in for guys that are supposed to supplement and replace some of these guys that were homegrown talent from the New York Giants that we allowed to walk in free agency. I mean, Paulson Adebo's getting paid like $50+ million over 3 years. Javon Holland's getting over $35 million over 3 years. We're talking about $16 million. I think that now it's pretty easy to look at Joe Schoen. And y'all know the theme for me has been Joe Schoen is a general manager that is learning on the job, right? And I thought he did a pretty decent job addressing some of the needs that we needed in the draft and looking at the future with the way that he approached the 2025 NFL draft and the free agency. But now it's like you're trying to correct too many mistakes that were the fault of your own, right? Javon Holland is here to fill the shoes of Xavier McKinney. He is yet able to show that he is even going to be sniffing anywhere near that type of production. But when it came time for the draft, I stressed weapons, weapons, weapons. Where are we going to get the points on offense? This was an offense that averaged 16.1 points per game last season. Did the Giants truly think that bringing in Russell Wilson and drafting Cam Skattebo in the 4th round was going to fix those things? If they did, that is just absolute poor process and just incompetency from our coaching staff, from our front office, from our owner. And now I'm starting to kind of rethink the Joe Schoen tenure and era here as we fall to 0-3. And I'm starting to think that I'm starting to agree with the fans here. Like, yo, if y'all want to just get rid of all these jokers, it wouldn't bother me one bit. Let's tap in with the chat here, man. I appreciate y'all patience for that first portion of the show. Let's tap in with the chat. I see there's a ton of super chats, a ton of conversations going on here. Shout out, I see you, Marjorie, in the building. Marjorie says, wow, Groundhog Day every day with this Giants team. That's really what it is. That's really what it is. I'm going to scroll to the bottom of the chat, get us up to date here. We're going to run through all of these super chats before we get off into the Giant overreactions. Once we get through the super chats, feel free to reiterate some of the stuff that y'all have said early on in the chat. If you want to address me, maybe put a cue or maybe just put something that grabs my attention so that I can, address some of the stuff that is kind of, gotten swept under the rug as we've been opening up the show here. But let's start with the super chats, man. First of all, big shout out to everybody that supports this channel, especially in these times, man, because we're 3 weeks into the season here, and there's basically no hope for the New York Giants. We'll start off with Timmy Football, man. Big shout out to my dog, Timmy Football, with the first super chat of the day. He says the Giants need new everything. Head coach, general manager, owner, stadium, logo, jerseys. I could go on. Everything about this team sucks. New logo, I'm with you. I want like a new old logo. Let's go back to the 80s vibes and just bring back the italic font. That's the logo I like the best. Can't disagree with nothing else here, man. Head coach, general manager, owner, stadium, jerseys, absolutely. There's no pushback from me, man. I know Timmy's extremely frustrated here, man, and it's been tough, man. It's been tough, but salute to my dog, man. Appreciate you for supporting the channel, helping us raise the bar. We got another one from my dog, Dean, in the building with the 1999 super chat, man. Starting off the day hot. Cheers to y'all, man. All y'all Giants fans across the country rocking out with your boy today. Salute to y'all. Dean says, let's get this stream started properly. Salute to you, Authentic. Dable must go. Shane must go. Bowen must go. All the mayors infesting the personnel offices must go. These are not serious people. This isn't a serious team. It's not, man. The mistakes that you're seeing on all levels throughout this organization, we could run this team better. And I'm dead ass serious about that. And when I say run this team, it's not like I'll be out on the sidelines with a headset and a clipboard calling plays and giving you the whole philosophy of this offense. But I feel like collectively as a chat, we could go out here and hire a better head coach. We could go out here and hire a better general manager. I'd start maybe from hiring from within and just let Brandon Brown take over for the rest of the season if it was me. But we could find ways to get more W's for this team. It's absolutely pathetic. Shout out to Dean for helping us start off this stream on a good note here. And yeah, man, it's bad, y'all. It's bad. There's no way around it. I can only laugh at the pain that the New York Giants organization, fan base, through it all is going through right now, because there's no way I'm going to allow this team to have me throughout the week be just extremely frustrated. Last night after that loss, I'm looking at it like, boy, that game was right there for the New York Giants to be able to be in it and, more importantly, take the W. And you see it through and through, man, just incompetency. The New York Giants can't get out their own way. And even when teams are giving them an opportunity, I mean, everything was right there for us. You know, no Rashee Rice, no Xavier Worthy. We were finding ways to be able to just shoot ourselves in the foot and not win football games. And you got to point right at the top to John Mara and let that trickle down to the general manager, to the head coach, through the entire coaching staff. It's just poor. It's poor, man. Shout out to my dog Dean, though, one time. Shout out to Alvaro Orion one time in the building with the 2500 CLP. He says, are we going to talk about the elephant in the room, Daniel Jones? Now that he's gone, all darts point to the coaching staff. Really disappointing. So for me, I have a bit of a different take on this, because Daniel Jones is not doing anything that I've never seen, right? And I don't think Daniel Jones is truly the elephant in the room, if that's what you were pointing at. I think Brian Dable is the elephant in the room now, right? We've seen Daniel Jones go through numerous coaching staffs, and we saw the same exact results, right? Now, as you get older and you get more experience in the league, you should become a better quarterback in the league. I still think the deficiencies within Daniel Jones' game will harper a team from getting to a Super Bowl. I don't think that the 3 victories that we saw, against Tennessee, against Miami, and against the Denver Broncos change any of that. But Daniel Jones is playing good football, and it goes to show you that if you build – this is probably the ideal situation that Joe Schoen wanted when he was trying to build the team around Daniel Jones after they paid him the $160 million contract. So it's definitely disappointing. Gotta pay attention to how things progress. But, I've been pretty consistent in saying this. Like, I don't care if Daniel Jones goes out here and puts up 50 touchdowns through the air and rushes for 1,000 yards. To me, the 1 year won't change anything. If Daniel Jones goes out here now and puts up, 2-3 consecutive seasons of this level of play and ultimately gets the Indianapolis Colts, let's say, to a championship game maybe, or maybe even a Super Bowl, then we kind of got to rethink things. And maybe we can question if we had the right guy in the building all along. But the question I'll have for Alvaro here is, do you think Daniel Jones was the right guy for the New York Giants, or any organization for that matter? I've been seeing Indianapolis Colts fans saying, extend Daniel Jones right away. Give him the contract like Baker Mayfield got with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to just have no comment on that. But shout out my dog, Alvaro Orion, for helping us raise the bar over here on Authentic in the Beard. Shout out my dog, man. Look at y'all, man. Y'all raising the bar on the super chats here, man. Shout out my dog, B-Rog, in the building. I didn't even read that when I said that. He said, raising the bar here because the Giants bar has been and continues to sit in the putrid sludge of football ineptitude at every fundamental and organizational level. I like this, man. We're using like some nice SAT words here. It has a good ring to it. A lot of 3 and 4 syllable vibes here. Shout out B-Rog, man. I think no one in this chat would disagree with what you're saying here. Appreciate you for helping us raise the bar. B-Rog has been one of our biggest supporters on this channel, man. And salute to you because a lot of work goes into what we do here. That's why the stream started at 1:45 today. I was up till almost 1 in the morning on Bleacher Report after the game doing our initial reaction. And just a lot of New York Giants fans frustrated, but also looking for answers, man. Like, where are these answers going to come from when you have this kind of negligence starting at the top with the owner, with the front office, with the general manager, with the coaching staff, trickling all the way down to the quarterback, to the defensive coordinator? It's all been bad. And this is a reminder. Because you could have went through week 1 and been like, oh, that was kind of bad. And then you get week 2 and you go, well, at least the offense performed. Week 3 really put us back to square one, as I described early on in the stream. And we all know what it is now. Hope out the window. Hype out the window. Shout out my dog B-Rog for helping us raise the bar one time. Charlie Hefter in the building. And listen, I don't care if it's a $50 super chat or if it's a $4.99 super chat like Charlie Hefter's. All of these super chats help us raise the bar. Salute to y'all. Charlie Hefter said, have you looked into any early candidates for the next general manager and head coach? If so, any preferences? Also hearing anything about players that might want to be traded? I haven't heard anything about, we'll start with the trades. I haven't heard much on the trade front outside of, I did have a plug who told me Andrew Thomas was not going to play week 1 and at the same time told me that a lot of teams were inquiring about trading for Joshua Ezeudu. Giants said they don't want to trade him, so definitely couldn't get nothing there. As far as like some of the cornerstone pieces, I haven't heard much. Candidates for the next general manager and head coach. Head coach is going to be a tough one. There are a couple of guys out there. I've heard a lot of people talking about the defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers, if he would be available. John Gruden is a name that a lot of people are talking about that I don't know would be able to get back into the NFL and get, on the good side of Roger Goodell. I'm not too sure about that, but I'd welcome John Gruden here. Whatever goes down when it does come to a general manager and a head coach search for me, I want experience. I want football knowledgeable guys that are going to be able to run this organization for John Mara because he's likely still going to be here. General manager, I think if you're going to fire guys within the season, it starts with Brandon Brown. After that, that's a spot that honestly I'm not as qualified to be able to tell you who should be the next general manager of the New York Giants. I'll tell you what, though, we fucked up by not getting Adam Peters when we brought in Joe Schoen, and that was a guy that was out there, so I tried to look for this tweet that I'd put out back then right before we hired Joe Schoen, and it was no words. It was like literally just a picture. And you know how like every year the NFL does the headshots where it's just the player basically on the green screen that gets replaced with a white background. And I posted a picture of Adam Peters, and a lot of people were like, why are you posting this? A couple years later, I think we understand why. Big shout out to Charlie Hefter helping us raise the bar over here on Authentic in the Beer, man. Big salute to you. Shout out to my dog Talking Eco one time in the building with the $4.99 super chat. He said, if the Giants didn't screw over Flores, I want him as a head coach with Ray Agnew as the general manager, but Flores will never come here after 2022. That's very true, and I think that the lawsuit is still active that Brian Flores has against the New York Giants. So we fucked that up, man. And then you know what's funny about it is Bill Parcells, not Bill Parcells. Why can't I think of his name right now? Bill Belichick. Sorry about that. He called up Brian Flores and told him, congratulations on getting the job with the New York Giants, and then had to be like, oh, wrong Brian. Like, terrible. But Brian Flores would have been an ideal candidate, man. And actually had a conversation with a Commanders homie of mine, and he was talking about the Bengals going up against the Vikings and, who he should try to, rock with in a fantasy matchup. And I was like, man, this is a Brian Flores defense, bro. They're going to go out there and put up numbers, and it's exactly what they did, man. And Carson Wentz played a pretty decent game for them, but definitely Brian Flores will not be the next head coach for the New York Giants, barring a miracle. But big shout out Talking Eco, man. Appreciate you, fam. We got B-Raw coming in with another super chat. This one's for $5 here. He said, it feels to me the coaching staff is very arrogant. It is their way or the highway. No changes in the scheme. See state's evidence. Wink Martindale. Yeah, man, like that. I don't even like talking about the Wink Martindale thing because when I talked about it, it's funny. I lost a lot of homies on Twitter during that debacle. This one homegirl comes to mind because I was telling her, like, yo, the Wink Martindale thing is terrible for us. And Denard Wilson is the guy for the job, but they're not going to give him the job because they don't want to let him bring in his own staff. Oh, you think you know this, blah, 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 blah. End up getting blocked. A couple years later, look what we're looking at here. This personnel with Wink Martindale would have been a lot better. I think this might not be the game to highlight that because I thought that Shane Bowen did a average job, but it's tough, man. It's tough when you see things in real time. And Wink Martindale was the experience on this coaching staff, right? He was the guy that's been through the trenches and been with the Baltimore Ravens dating back to way back when, right? A football guy. And we got rid of him. If Brian Daboll was a good head coach, he would have found a way to salvage that relationship with Wink Martindale. Instead, got into beef with him and then came up on the podium and flat out told us a fucking lie and goes, oh, no, me and Wink Martindale are good. We had donuts earlier today. I'll leave it there, man. But big shout out my dog B-Rog, man. I appreciate you. Shout out to Greg Giants. Not a name I truly recognize in here. But big shout out to Greg Giants for helping us raise the bar one time. He said, this team is trash. Some fans are actually trying to defend Russ. Yeah, I am seeing that a little bit. And the only way that I could defend Russ up here is that we knew that Russell Wilson was not going to come in here and be an elite quarterback. We've been talking about it from week to week to week, right? We're crossing our fingers that we could get that 2020 version of Russell Wilson where he put up 40 touchdowns and over 4,000 yards that year. That's asking for a miracle from the football gods that we likely are not going to get. And now you've seen Russell Wilson go out there in 3 games, and in 2 out of the 3 games looks like an average fucking quarterback, right? And it's not moving the needle for the New York Giants. I think it's important now that Brian Daboll look himself in the mirror. We've been talking about lifelines, right? That Russell Wilson gives Brian Daboll his first lifeline of the season. And the quicker that he pivots and goes to Jackson Dart is also the longer that we're going to get to see Jackson Dart within Brian Daboll's scheme and be able to come to a true evaluation. So let's say the New York Giants roll Jackson Dart out here for the Week 4 matchup against the Los Angeles Chargers, which would be crazy. Chargers coming in hot right now, right? But let's say you do that. That gives you now 14 games to be able to evaluate Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka with Jackson Dart. And if it don't look good, guess what? Brian Daboll, you're getting fired before the 2026 season begins. And I think that if Brian Daboll is looking at, you know, his coaching livelihood here with the New York Giants, he's going to roll out Russell Wilson for a couple more games. I've seen people talking about wheeling out Jameis Winston even before you wheel out Jackson Dart, but they fucked that up already because they announced that Jackson Dart is quarterback 2, which is a spit in the face to Jameis Winston, honestly. And you see Jackson Dart on the sidelines. When the plays get called in, he's going through the motions as if he is the starting quarterback. He's looking at his wrist. He's looking at the play call. He's almost like verbalizing the play, you know, under his breath to himself as if he has to say the play in the huddle. To me, that just screams that that quarterback's not truly, truly ready, especially considering that you have 2 competent veteran quarterbacks on the roster. It's not to say that I don't think you can throw Jackson Dart out there to the Wolves and he might not succeed, because I've been on record saying that, hey, if Jackson Dart has to start week 1, I'm okay with it, right? I think that he is competent and ready enough to go out there and do that. But once you named him quarterback 2, I think the Jameis Winston thing is over. And it's unfortunate, you know. And I think that Jameis Winston might be able to make the needle move a little bit more in a better direction. Maybe Jameis Winston could possibly get you to a couple more victories. But look, we're already 0-3. Things are not looking up. And I think the only move here is for Brian Daboll to go to Jackson Dart and pray to them football gods and pray to whoever Brian Daboll believes in that Jackson Dart can save him. That was his guy. So hopefully he has that belief that he can save him. But big shout out to Greg Giants for helping us raise the bar over here on Authentic in the Beard. We got Joseph Winograd in the building one time, man. been rocking out with us for a while with the $10 super chat. He says, the saying goes, to learn how to win together, you need to learn how to overcome losses together. It's a good point. But the Giants are finding an unlimited number of ways to lose. It's true, man. Like, you look at that Dallas Cowboys game. There's no way that a team should put up 37 points and lose a ball game. 30? Okay, I got you, right? Like, I can remember the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Washington Commanders last season, right? Bengals put up over 30, you lose. Going up against a high-powered Washington Commanders offense. But 37 points there's no excuse to lose the ball game, right? At all. It shouldn't have came down to overtime. It shouldn't have came down to those last series right there before the end of regulation. None of that. And got to agree with Joseph here, man. Like, the Giants don't know how to lose together. And I can't wait to really go look at all the press conferences. I did get a chance to look at Brian Dable when he got a chance to speak to the media, but I want to see what players they wheeled out there and really get a chance to look at that as well and just see how the vibes are, specifically with Malik Neighbors. I really want to see how he's taking this loss because thus far he has been, nothing but a professional this season in the locker room when addressing the media. On the field, different story. I kind of saw a little bit of lackluster body language late in this game, especially right after he took that big hit. And one other thing I want to add to this is that the Giants were very lucky to skate out of this one without Brian Burns having a real serious injury. And I know what that's like to hyperextend your knee like that. And the first thought is to just fall to the ground and grab, you just think it's worse than it really is. And then as time kind of progresses, you get a minute, to kind of get your wits together and you realize, okay, I dodged a bullet. But I looked at the slow motion. I posted it on my Twitter and I was like, wow, he definitely dodged a bullet there. And I think because there was no, other player in the vicinity of him, he's just kind of jumping up and landing on his own weight. I think that was really the saving grace there. But big shout out to Joseph Winograd, man, always supporting us over here on Authentic in the Beard, man. Definitely means a lot, my brother. Appreciate you helping us raise that bar. Shout out my dog, Chris Peace, in the building with the $4.99 super chat. Chris Peace says, imagine spending your money to drive to MetLife, buy tickets and a parking pass, and them parking passes are not cheap nowadays, and seeing that product on the field week after week. Pathetic. Yeah, it is, man. Of all the fans that I feel the worst for, Chris Peace, it's the ones that live in New York that have season tickets to the New York Giants games where you got to watch that product. Brian Dable is now what? He was 1-8 last season at home. They got to see one home victory, and it was bittersweet because a lot of people knew at that time we lost the number 1 overall selection in the draft, which would have been Cam Ward, right? Got a nice second-place prize in Jackson Dart for sure, right? But these people got to go up there, watch these games week in and week out. I know some of my homies like Mike C that are just not even going to the home games anymore, and they have season tickets. But now you are 1-9 dating back to last season at home. It's unacceptable. It's pathetic. It's unacceptable. It's sad. It's really sad, bro. Like, you got fans booing at the beginning of the game, man. It's completely sad. And when I saw Brandon Jacobs go out there at the beginning of the game and try to hype up the Giants fans that were in the stadium, I felt bad for Brandon Jacobs. Like, bro, I feel you, but this team is just dog shit, bro. This team is not a good team. Not only is this team not a good team, this team is not even as good as some of the poor teams that we've seen in the last couple of years. Like, listen, say what you want about 2023. Giants won 6 games with that garbage-ass roster. It's tough, man. But big shout out to Chris Peace for helping us raise the bar. Shout out my dog, Sarah, in the building. Always good to see Sarah representing those Minnesota Vikings one time. She said, who would you want to be brought in as the new general manager and coach next season? Yeah, we kind of addressed this already. For me, it's going to take an extensive search to try to figure out who are the best candidates. Like I said, experience. Brian Flores is out of the question pretty much. I know a lot of my homies are shitting on the fact of trying to bring in John Gruden, but I'd be okay with that. John Gruden knows how to win. John Gruden been around the game since we talking the 90s. He's been around the game. I would bring him in. And I know a lot of people, might be reluctant to bring in John Gruden because of the insensitive statements that he had, which ultimately cost him his job, which I get that. But I've always been a person of second chances. You know, when it came to Mike Vick, I was all about the second chance. And look what that did to Mike Vick's career. It helped him revive and revitalize his entire career in the NFL and really had his best season with the Philadelphia Eagles after coming out of prison. So when it comes to John Gruden, I'd be willing to give him another chance. Offensive coordinator-wise, and I know that's not the question here, keep your eyes on what Mike McDaniel, you know, his situation with the Miami Dolphins, because I think Mike McDaniel's a guy that, can't lead men as a head coach, but when it comes to the X's and O's, definitely a savvy play caller. He's a guy I'd be keeping my eyes on. But shout out to Sarah helping us raise the bar one time. Shout out to Xavier Anderson in the building one time with the $4.99 super chat. Xavier says, it's not even October and our season is over, scratching my head. That SMH could mean something else too. He said, Wilson looked scared yesterday and that pass to Neighbors was late. It's time for a switch. Yeah, I'm not mad at that. Anybody that thinks we need to make a move at the quarterback position, so be it. Because right now, you know, we need a spark that can change this season. And who knows, maybe Jackson Dart comes out there and, you know, looks like Johnny Moxon out there and saves our season. I mean, we shall see. But shout out to Xavier helping us raise the bar one time. Big shout out to Zeke Anderson, always helping us raise the bar, man. Just about every stream. With the $5 super chat, he said, yo, beloved, just blessing you. I got nothing other than not spending another dime. Yeah, man, the New York Giants don't deserve our money. B-Rog actually hit me up, you know, on email and was like, yo, I got an extra ticket to the San Francisco 49ers game. And no offense to B-Rog, but like, I can't find myself. I just can't find it in me to travel all the way up to MetLife, even with a free ticket on the line, to go watch this team. They got to prove a lot more before they earn the right to have fans out there in the stands. And I heard there was a lot of Kansas City Chiefs and the fans at MetLife yesterday. The more and more this team loses, the more and more you're going to see less blue out there in that stadium. And that's unfortunate, man. It's definitely unfortunate. But big shout out to Zeke helping us raise the bar over here. We got Bergs in the building as well, coming in hot with the $4.99 super chat. Berg said that game was going to tell us if there's any hope left for the season. Can't believe we're done with the season on 9/22 again, man. September ain't even finished and the season is over. It's absolutely pathetic. And, you know, I just got to commend y'all for sticking with me and sticking with us over here on this channel because, like, I could understand just clocking out. Like, I as far as Giants content creators go, I've basically clocked out like 2 years ago. Like, I don't watch a lot of content. I still keep up with Big Dash every now and again. I'll pop in on Entertainer and Bad Dogs play-by-play sometimes right before the game just to wish them well and be out. I'm not watching the game with them, you know, because I'm doing my own stuff and I got my own responsibilities as far as the game goes. I check Bobby out for some of the all 22 breakdowns. I'm clocked out, bro. Like, so I got to salute y'all for even being here because the Giants are a shit show, and I don't know what content can make us feel better about ourselves. I really don't know. It's unfortunate, but big shout out to Bergs, man. Shout out to all you guys helping us raise the bar here, man. It's definitely you know, a bonus as to a reason why it's easier to come back up here, pull up, and talk ball with y'all, man. Like, you know, that y'all are still here, rocking out with us, most importantly, y'all presence. You know, my dog, Premium Pete, who was the co-host on the Combat Jack show, the saying that we say at the end of every one of these shows, keep raising that bar, keep living those dreams, because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. He always says presence over presence. And he's talking about, like, your time with your family, with the people that you're around, over showing up with a gift. And, yeah, you guys are the gift and the reason why I can come up here and feel confident about a show and feel good about, like, getting in front of Giants Nation and, you know, having these conversations because this team is not worth it. That's for damn sure. So shout out to Bergs, man. We appreciate you. Shout out to Aaron K one time in the building with the $2 super chat. Aaron said, any defensive coordinators from the Spags tree makes sense. Get me Spags, man. Like, I as far as head coaching candidates, I think Spags is a guy. When it comes to defensive coordinator, I just don't want a guy that has no experience. Like, I don't even know if I'd want to hire somebody from the Spags tree that is unproven right now. Give me some dogs that know the game of football, man. You know, when we talk about head coaches, I know a lot of people wouldn't like this, but Mike McCarthy's a guy that I would at least have a conversation about. You know, like those OG coaches know the game, man. Like you're seeing that with Sean Payton, right? He's had some success. He took the Denver Broncos to the playoffs last year with a team that, when you look at it with Russell Wilson there, it looked like they had nothing on the offensive side of the ball with a $60 million dead cap hit from the Russell Wilson situation. And this situation with us is just not looking good. So we'll see, man. I'm never on the front line of defensive coordinator searches or coaching, just coaching jobs in general. Head coach, yeah, you know, I'll have some candidates, but defensive coordinator, man, your guess is good as mine. But big shout out to Aaron K, man, helping us raise the bar over here. B-Rog, man, you're spending big money over here with us on Authentic in the Beard, man. Big shout out to B-Rog, man. That's a $50 super chat, a $20 super chat, and I believe a $10 super chat. So big shout out to B-Rog, man. That means the world to us over here. He says a strong fan community is the only thing we have left with this team. Man, that's basically we got. And that's facts, man. That's facts, man. That's definitely facts. I mean, there's nothing to be added to that. Shout out to B-Rog helping us raise the bar and dropping gems while doing it, man. Salute to you, my dog. Let me see what the chat's talking about here. Kind of tap in. And we'll get off into these giant overreactions, and then we'll get y'all up out of here. We're an hour into the show. We'll see. We'll see how things progress. Omar Alvarez says McCarthy is a real coach. Dable is just a coordinator. That's true. And whatever bad words we got to say about Mike McCarthy, he's still one of the highest percentage winning coaches in Dallas Cowboys history. That says a lot in my opinion. Marlo says, to your point about Gruden, we need a football guy with experience, no more geniuses. Yeah, man, guys that don't have a track record of truly winning, you know, these hot names that pop up, and then once they get the head coaching job, can't get the job done. Ben Johnson's a guy to pay attention to as far as that, you know, is said, as far as these younger guys, up and up offensive coordinators turned into head coaches that might not get the same results. So keep your eyes on that. Shout out to my dog, Peter Randazzo, in the building one time. That's my dog, Peter, over there from Twitter with the $5 super chat. He said the Giants are not a serious organization. It's as simple as that. It's facts, man. It's facts. Top to bottom, man, they got nothing. And the scary part about this, Peter, come December, and it'll be Jackson Dart, which will help that out. We're going to be front and center for the world to see on Hard Knocks, the NFC East version. And let me tell you, if that shit gets anywhere near what it looked like on the offseason version of Hard Knocks, where we were looking like an embarrassment, that's going to apply pressure to this coaching staff and to this front office. And that could be the thing that puts John Mara over the top and really starts him, you know, contemplating about firing these guys in season. So we shall see, man. Shout out to Peter for helping us raise the bar one time, man. Salute to you, dog. I hope all is well on your end. We ain't chopped it up and talked in a minute here. Patrick Grove said Rex Ryan for defensive coordinator. I wouldn't be mad at that either. Brownie said McCarthy will get hired and be a winner again wherever he goes. Giants will go with someone who inevitably fucks things up. Wouldn't surprise me. Let me see. This is my dog K in the building. I'm not too sure where the name is going, so I'm going to call you K. He said the Giants are 45-99-1 since Tom Coughlin left. Let that sink in. It's terrible, bro. It's terrible. We cannot get right. And how many different coaches since Tom Coughlin? Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur, Joe Judge, and now Brian Dable. It's not a good look, y'all. It's not a good look. Starts from the top, but also these guys that are getting hired just not doing shit. They're just not doing shit. Shout out my dog Gregory in here representing for them Dallas Cowboys. Tough loss for you guys this week. That's one of them games where you start to contemplate where the season is going, because if your defense can't make stops, y'all not going to win games. But Gregory said authentic. The Giants can start a new identity by getting their own stadium and cheerleaders. It's way past time. That's true. That's definitely true, man. Let me see. We got another super chat here from the dog. Luis. Could be Lewis, but I want to say Luis for all my New Yorkers. I feel like this giving me like Boricua or Dominicano vibes. So I'm going to say Luis. He says nothing will really change until we get the nepotism out of the front office. That's true. That's something to think about. That's definitely something to think about. You know, I've heard people talking about that, but you just need to turn it over to a person that is trustworthy, whether that be a general manager, whether that be a head coach, or whether that be a combination of both. Because you look at the Washington Commanders, for example, bringing in Adam Peters and a proven guy in Dan Quinn, who it's unfortunate because a lot of people wrote Dan Quinn off, right? When he first got his first head coaching stint with the Atlanta Falcons. And the Washington Commanders decided we're going to bring him back in. His defense looks great. We're going to bring him back in. And look at the success that he is having with the right people around him, the right quarterback, the right offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury. You know, nepotism is one thing that can definitely get in the way. But I think it starts with getting that right general manager and pairing that with the head coach. And then, you know, all them jokers that are a part of the Mara family can do whatever the fuck they want up top, man. And like it won't affect what's going on the field. The crazy part about the nepotism thing is Tim McDonald, who is Mara's like, I guess he's like married to like Mara's daughter, something like that, right? He's the one guy that said, okay, you're going to trade Saquon Barkley or you're going to let Saquon Barkley walk in free agency. Well, then what's going to be the identity after that? He's the one guy that had actually a decent question proposed for when Joe Schoen was creating a game plan that was going to go straight off the rails. It never made sense. It never made sense, y'all. But shout out to Luis. I'm going to say Luis. I hope I'm right for helping us raise the bar over here. Shout out my dog, NY Giants fan 48 over there from Bleach Report. Just throwing the 199 out there for your dog, man. I appreciate you, fam. Hope all is well with you on this Monday afternoon. Ben Harris is in the building. He says, I always sided with Saquon and Daniel. They aren't stupid. Yeah, that's true, man. Like, and it all spiraled out of control when they couldn't get the Saquon Barkley deal done. You're trying to pinch pennies over just a couple of $1 million. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, we're talking $16 million, man. And everybody's like, you can't spend that on a running back. With critical thinking and common sense, I need those people to explain that to me. Like, why not? $16 million a year? We see the Philadelphia Eagles found a way to have Saquon Barkley's dead cap hit. Granted, they stretched out that contract throughout 100 fucking years. But they found a way to get his percentage of the salary like under 3%. It was equal to what Devin Singletary's was for these first two seasons with us. And Joe Schoen telling us, oh, yeah, you know, running backs tend to fall off a cliff at the age of 27, basically. And then he went out there and got Devin Singletary, who was 27 years old, who obviously is not fucking Saquon Barkley. You know, I never understood this approach. If I had it my way, we would have moved on from all of that shit after 2022, which I knew was difficult. But I wanted to bring in a quarterback, a young quarterback in the draft, bring in a bridge quarterback, keep the same surrounding pieces with Saquon. If you wanted to add a Darren Waller going into 2023, fine. Draft another wide receiver, get your quarterback of the future, and build them around the current offense that we had. They decided to franchise tag Saquon because they couldn't get the deal done, pay Daniel Jones $40 million a year, and we're here now. Now we're here. Shout out Jermaine Bryan in the building. He said, what it do, Authentic? This is Mano. Shout out Mano over there from Bleacher Report, man. I appreciate you pulling up and rocking out with us, my dog. He said, I live in D.C., and I'm tired of the losing for real. So you right there with me, man. I'm a little bit across the line. If you take New Hampshire down, I'm down here in Silver Spring, down on the 29 side. But it's tough, man. But shout out to all the Giants fans in the DMV rocking out, representing. Chaz G is in the building. He said, read my mind. Was just going to say Mara got too many nephews in high positions. Yeah, that's true. Timmy Football said, try staying up until 5 a.m. to watch this shit. Supporting this team and living in the UK makes it even worse. I'm not just tired. I'm pissed off. I need Dart to ball out or I might have to dip. It's unfortunate. The way my fandom is set up, I'm a Giants fan till the casket dips. And this can't continue to go this way. It really can't. Problems in the building. He said it gets even bleaker when we start talking about Neighbors' future with the Giants. I don't see a world where this regime survives yet another season. It's time to cut bait and finally embrace a rebuild. I'm glad you brought up Neighbors' problem. Neighbors strikes me as the kind of person where when his contract is up, which would, he is going to have the 5th-year option with the New York Giants. I think it's interesting. I think that the 5th-year option, that might be something that the NFL wants to experiment with, allowing the player also to decline the 5th-year option with a team that is headed in this kind of a direction. But Malik Neighbors is now in his 2nd season, and by the time he gets to the 5th-year option, we'll be looking at entering 2028, right? At that point, Malik Neighbors strikes me as the kind of guy that might be like, you know what? Fuck y'all. I'm going to free agency. I want to go play ball with my dog over there in Washington. And I know a lot of people have kind of joked about that, Door Gunner being one of them. There was another one of our family members in the chat that was experimenting with that too. I can't remember who else it was, but just joking about it. But there could be some validity to that. There really could. Like, Malik Neighbors doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that's going to sit around and waste his fucking career here with the New York Giants. Absolutely not. I don't see that happening. I definitely don't see that happening. Let me see. And we got another one from Miguel Velasquez. He says, long-time listener, first-time super chatting. If we change coaching staffs, do you think that affects Dart's development? It could. It definitely could. And I think a lot of people think that this is a bigger problem than it really is. But what it'll do is it'll let you know if Dart is ready to go. Think about the situation with Justin Herbert in his first couple of seasons with the Chargers. I forget who the first coach was. Oh, it was Anthony Lynn. It just came to me. It was Anthony Lynn. Then it was Brandon Staley, who came over from the Rams. And now it's Harbaugh. And Harbaugh came in, inherited a quarterback that we knew had the goods, because the first 3 years of Justin Herbert's career, he put up better numbers than any quarterback has ever done in the history of the game in his first 3 years. You knew he was a guy. For fans, I think that would be a really good thing to get to see Jackson Dart play as many games as we could possibly see him play this year, so that by the time we get to next year, we'll know if he has the goods or not. You got fans that are giving pushback and saying, you don't want to ruin the kid. Like, fuck are we talking about, man? A good quarterback is going to get behind this particular offensive line that really is not as bad as people think it is. I mean, Russell Wilson's been sacked, a couple of times in each game, 2 times on Sunday. Jackson Dart will show you if he's a good enough quarterback to build around moving forward. I'm not saying you'll get the direct answers that Jackson Dart is Justin Herbert in the first year, but you'll at least be able to know that when a new coaching staff comes in and they can go back and look at, I don't even think they got to go back. A lot of these teams just scout these quarterbacks coming out anyway. You compile that with the assessment and the evaluation of Jackson Dart coming out of college and combine that with what he has done in the NFL. By the time we do get to a new coach, I think that's a good situation, because now the new coach, the new general manager, will have that bit of a buffer of, let's call it 14 games, maybe 10 games by the time we get to when Jackson Dart does come in, that gives you an evaluation of an NFL quarterback in a bad situation with bad surroundings. Jackson Dart, to me, has shown us already in the preseason that the dude is a good enough quarterback to be able to at least consider as your future franchise quarterback. It's all about the reps, man. Look at the reps from Jackson Dart. He's put out great reps already. So I don't think this is a huge problem. Big shout out to Miguel, man, for helping us raise the bar over here. First time, long time listener, first time super chatter. I like those vibes, man. Big shout out to Miguel one time. We'll see what else the chat talking about. I'll take a couple of more here. I'm going to kind of scroll up. Shout out to G-Men. He said, I'm in Germany watching games. Nothing worse than a loss when you had a 2 a.m. start time. I feel your pain. Yeah, he's talking about Timmy football over there. Yeah, it's awful. It's straight up awful. I feel for y'all. It don't get no worse. I saw one there, but I don't know what he's responding to. Greg Turd Hauler. Y'all be having some interesting names, but shout out to this one right here. Greg Turdhaller says the league needs to intervene at this point. And that's already happened to the New York Giants back in the day, man, back in the 70s when we were just that pathetic of an organization. The league had to intervene and bring us our general manager that really got us in the right direction, got us going in the right direction, and the rest is history. Let's see. Kevin the PRF said, breaking news, Nick Bosa, season-ending ACL. Man, that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate right there. I see my dog, Big Dog Status, is in the building one time. Shout out Big Dog Status. He said, I haven't seen Neighbors run one slant route this season. You look at the tape a little bit. I've been watching him. He had 2 slant routes on Sunday against the Kansas City Chiefs. In the Washington Commanders loss, I know that there was 1 slant in that game, and I think I saw a couple against the Dallas Cowboys, but the frequency and the consistency has absolutely not been there. I feel you on that. Shout out my dog, Sebastian, in the building. Sock passe, mon cher. All my Zoes in the building representing. He said, my perspective has changed. There's nothing to ruin at this point. Throw Dart in there and figure it out. Enough of this bullshit. I respect you pivoting as you get more information, more data. I'm right there with you. If they want to start Jackson Dart this week, do it. Because if Jackson Dart looks good, it's going to make Brian Dable look good. That's Brian Dable's guy from the draft. It's perfect. All he has to do is go out there and perform. And honestly, fans would allow this team to not come out with victories and give it a pass a little bit more as long as Jackson Dart looks pretty decent. It'll be more of an evaluation process for Jackson Dart. We're going to get there on some of these overreactions here in a second, too. Ben Ayers said Brian Burns' contract more than McKinney and Saquon's original contracts combined. Yeah, I mean, it's $28 million a year. It's tough. Timmy Football said Adam Schefter thinks we are starting Dart on Sunday versus the Chargers. It wouldn't surprise me. Greg Turdhaller said put Jameson. He can just throw up deep balls. It's kind of what Russell Wilson was doing, but I do have more faith maybe in Jameis Winston. I'm right there with you on that. Lamont Lewis said another year with this one right here. At least we can look forward to Dart. And I think that's the part that is intriguing. Like, let's say Dart comes out here, plays some good football, maybe wins a couple of games, and then we get to Hard Knocks and we get to watch that on HBO, from behind that lens perspective. That will be a good look. Phase 114 said Dart will suffer. Stop capping respectfully. It's okay. Like, are we mad that Cam Ward is struggling in Tennessee right now? I don't know about y'all, but for me, I don't give a fuck. Rookie quarterbacks should struggle. We saw it with Joe Burrow. He struggled his first year, even blew out his ACL. It's all good for me. I want to see my quarterback get over those struggles. And more importantly than any of those examples I made, we saw Eli Manning struggle in his rookie season in 2004. In 7 games, looked like straight up dog shit. And then he came back, and from 2005 to 2012, the New York Giants did not have a singular losing season throughout that entire span, and we had 2 trophies to show for it. So I don't mind the struggling. Like, would you prefer seeing the struggling with Russell Wilson out there, or would you prefer seeing the struggling with your quarterback of the future getting some future reps and getting the dirt, dusting off the dirt before we get the next season and give ourselves a viable option to win some games with the new quarterback? So for me, I want to get the bullshit out the way now. I can't tell nobody how to fan, but that's just my particular stance on it. Big Dog Status said Neighbors will definitely dip if this thing doesn't turn around. Yeah. Facts. Vince G in the building said they have a chance against the Saints. We will have to see. They do. But listen, and I'm glad you bringing this up. This is so bad, y'all. This is so bad. I want to talk about this Saints game real quick. And let me pull this up so we can look at the schedule while we do it here. When you look at this schedule right here, the Giants got to face the Eagles 2 times in a 3-week span, 1 time on Thursday Night Football, right after that Saints game. And a lot of people are saying, nah, don't throw Dart out there yet, because if you start him against the Chargers or you start him against the Saints, then going up against the Eagles again, that's going to be too tough of a stint. You're going to ruin his development, all this bullshit that personally I don't want to hear, right? But this is the thing. If you start Russell Wilson against the Chargers and you go out there and you lose, and then you start Russell Wilson against the Saints and you lose, book it. Don't be surprised if Brian Daboll is fired after that. If you lose to the fucking Saints with Russell Wilson, the guy that's supposed to come in here and win games for you, without committing to your rookie quarterback, that is a fireable offense, in my opinion. Keep your eyes on the way that develops. I think that is extremely important because for me, fuck it. I'm starting Jackson Dart. Maybe not against the Chargers, but 1,000%. If you go out there and Russell Wilson loses to the Chargers and the offense looks very similar to what we saw against the Washington Commanders and what we saw against the Kansas City Chiefs last night, I'm starting Jackson Dart. And then imagine, listen, the Philadelphia Eagles have gone out here and won a couple of ugly games. It took a blocked field goal on basically the last play of the game against the Rams yesterday to win that game. The first couple of weeks, they came out looking extremely slow. We competed against the Dallas Cowboys. We scored more points against the Dallas Cowboys than the Philadelphia Eagles did. And I know you can't look at football like that, right? But just imagine if Brian Daboll and a Jackson Dart-led New York Giants go out there and get their first divisional win of the year against the Philadelphia Eagles, what that could do for Brian Daboll's fucking job and for the fan base. Most importantly for the fan base. But when we talk about self-preservation here, for Brian Daboll as a head coach who straight up vouched for Jackson Dart, if he could come in there and he has 2 opportunities, I'm starting to kind of look at this a little bit differently right now in real time as I'm speaking about it. 2 opportunities to find a way to fluke out a divisional win against the Philadelphia Eagles, what that could do for the next rest of the season, to be honest. Brian Daboll could go out there and lose a ton of games with Jackson Dart. If he could find a way to get 1 divisional win against the Philadelphia Eagles with Jackson Dart, that could speak volumes to the future of Brian Daboll's job. Kay says, bro, we let go of our good players all the time and they go ball out on other teams all the time. I'm tired of seeing it. I'm glad you said our good players because that is the biggest problem. It's like these are players that we knew were good in blue when they were here. And then they go to another circumstance, another organization, and show you that sometimes they're not even just good, they're great players, right? In the case of Saquon Barkley, this dude just won the fucking MVP, man. That guy was on our team. There is no reasoning, none at all. And I don't care what these Giants fans said back in real time about, yeah, the right move was to move on from Saquon Barkley. That was not the right fucking move. I don't care what nobody says. You cannot say that moving on from an MVP running back is the right move. At the age of 26 going on 27, it's not the right move. I'll disagree with it until they bury me, y'all. It was the wrong move, especially when you lost Darren Waller to retirement, right? You had no more weapons. I like drafting Malik Neighbors. That was a great move. And now when you got your future franchise quarterback out there in Jackson Dart, just imagine if Saquon Barkley was in blue instead of green right now. I'd feel much more confident going into the rest of this season with our rookie quarterback. Much more confident. I didn't want to fuck it up as I brought this up, but Lamont Lewis, he said, appreciate you pronouncing my name correct, bro. I hope I pronounced it right when I said it just now. I'm pretty sure it's Lamont Lewis. I'm pretty sure. But shout out my dog in the building, man. Y'all know what it is. Chaz G says, I don't care to see another quarterback under center. Dabes don't need more rope. He needs his walking papers. I want to see Dabes with Jackson Dart. That was his guy. And if you're going to fire Brian Daboll, then John Mara needs to just do this from the top down. If we're not going to get to see Jackson Dart with Daboll, fire everybody. But I understand the thinking here, Chaz. Excuse me. Ben Harris said, let's see Dart ASAP so there are less question marks after 2 seasons. There will be so many answers for us as Giants fans if we get to see Jackson Dart with this exact same roster. That's why I think comparing like the whole Saquon Barkley thing to now what we got going on this roster is an unfair comparison. Saquon Barkley was running behind Ben Bredesen, Evan Neal, and a bunch of other fucking jokers. So it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. I would love, personally as a fan, in a season that is pretty much all but gone, get to see Jackson Dart underneath the same exact circumstances that we saw Russell Wilson under. Even with Andrew Thomas coming in this game and being on a pitch count, I'd like to see Jackson Dart in a similar type of scenario. To be able to compare it and make the evaluation, for me, that would be much better. Because right now I don't care about wins. And honestly, I didn't care about wins coming into the season. I've been telling y'all since day one of the season that this is a beta season for me. I just want to see what we got. And I can't sit up here and act like I didn't get a little bit overly invested in the team and a little bit excited after what we saw out of preseason. But when you really think about it, the preseason hype came from Jackson Dart, not from Russell Wilson. Kevin the PRF says Jameis is going to get you 300 yards, but you have to overcome 2 or 3 picks as well. That's a fact. Berg said, I don't know why the Giants fan base needs a perfect situation for the young quarterback. This is the NFL. The situation will never be perfect. Good players will find a way. Big facts, man. Big facts. Greg Giants said, when you're a rookie quarterback, no one cares about struggling. It's about learning the game for them and seeing progress each week. Man, I'm glad y'all saying it. I'm glad y'all saying it as well. Sean Jackson in the building. What's going on, fam? He said authentic. Either Dable and the Giants are going to bottom out and Dabes will be gone, or Dart lights it up and the Giants become the 2022 Detroit Lions. Slow start, but a hot second half finish that saves Dabes. 2022 Detroit Lions were showing you towards the end of the year like where they were going. You're definitely right about that. I mean, they won a ton of games at the end of the year. I remember the last game of the year came down, divisional game, Detroit Lions versus the Green Bay Packers, and they went out there and they showed up. Couldn't get into the playoffs that year, but they definitely showed we're headed in the right direction. G-Men says, I promise you, I can be the general manager and build a team and start the season off 0-3 every year. I can do it for much cheaper, too. It's a good point, man. When you get that job, make sure you circle back to the Authentic in the Beard chat, man. You got a bunch of homies in here that'll help you out. Shout out Charlie Hefter one time with the $4.99 super chat. Appreciate you, my brother. He said, wouldn't you think that Malik knows the value of being in a market as big as NY? Just look at how much less press Micah is getting now that he's in Green Bay. Very true, but is the press good for the career? Is the real question here, right? Because I think Micah Parsons is in a much better situation. Let me not say a much better situation. Let me just say a better situation in Green Bay than he was in Dallas. And sometimes, man, that just allows you to just put your head down and get to work, not have to worry about the media, and not have to worry about all the hype surrounding your team, not have to worry about entering the year with the Dallas Cowboys and having that, that pressure of we got to win the Super Bowl this year looming over your head. It's interesting because that kind of pressure should be more applied to the Green Bay Packers, who really have a roster that is built to make it to the Super Bowl. Instead, when you're in that market with the Dallas Cowboys, America's teams market, you're going to get those conversations week in and week out, day to day, to be honest. If I'm a player, I don't care about the media stuff. I don't want to be in a bigger market just to get more attention and more eyes on what I'm doing, but I'm not Malik Neighbors, so honestly, I don't know. But this is a good topic to talk about. This is something that I think would split the room here, Charlie, and it's a good topic that I think people need to be focusing on and considering. Shout out to the dog, Charlie, for helping us raise the bar one time. Ben Ayers says, folks need to learn how to analyze without a perfect situation around them. Man, I'm glad you said it, bro. Cheers to you on that one. Because that was far too long the issue with Daniel Jones. People saying like, oh, man, but we need to see him with the weapons and the right offensive line and the right blah, blah, blah. For me, the evaluation on Daniel Jones was done after 2022, really after 2021, after he shit the bed when we put all those pieces around him. It's not that he's a bad quarterback, right? But people do need to learn how to be able to evaluate a quarterback without looking at getting the results, without looking at an ideal, perfect situation surrounding that quarterback. I think that Malik Willis is a pretty good example of it. When you saw him in Tennessee, there were flashes there of what he could possibly be as a quarterback. He went to Green Bay, and when he got better surroundings, the results started to kind of pan out for him. And I still think he's a guy that not necessarily could be a high-level starter, but definitely is a serviceable backup in this league. And who knows, maybe when a quarterback goes down, could go out there and possibly help his team. We saw it when Jordan Love went down. He got 2 victories that season. That was last year. Quota said, Eli struggled even in that span, but he was the comeback king. Not the first year, though. Didn't come back and win a single game. He went 0-7. But, the Giants won 11 games the following season and then got bounced out of the playoffs in the first round. I think it was by the Carolina Panthers. But Eli was ready. he got his feet wet that season before when Kurt Warner was about, I think we were one game under 500, and then Eli came in, got his feet wet, and by the time we got through the offseason the following season, Eli was ready to go. Greg says, I wouldn't let Dable touch Dart. F that. He ruins everything he touches. I don't know, man. That was his guy. I think he deserves. Imagine Brian Dable going throughout his whole entire tenure with the New York Giants and not even getting a chance to develop a quarterback. And that's why we brought him here, because of his success with Josh Allen. I thought he did a good job with Daniel Jones. Obviously after the knee injury and whatnot, and even throughout that season, it looked pretty terrible. But I can't give Greg much pushback against this, man. Brian Dable has been terrible. So, it is what it is at this point. Ben Ayer said, even if Dart is on a bad team, you can still see if he has a future or not. Very true. A lot of people like to make the David Carr comparisons, but I just think David Carr just was not cut out to be an NFL quarterback. That's just what it is. Let me see. Broken O is in the building. He said he's going to have to play the Eagles eventually. Might as well let him play. He can't be any worse than Russ was last night. That's how I'm looking at it, man. And I'm about to go straight to Twitter off that, and I want to see how people feel about that take, because a lot of people are trying to, hide our quarterback and coddle our quarterback so that once he gets in, it's the perfect, ideal situation. I want to see how he battles through adversity in a tough situation, more importantly. C. Rob is in the building, said the market isn't enough to keep quality players. Nobody wants to be a part of a losing organization. It's facts, bro. It's absolutely facts. Shout out to Deilla in the building. He says, I swear the people that worry about Dart probably never played a sport in their life. As a competitor, you welcome competition, and you know it's going to be tough. In all my years, bro, I've been in a bunch of losing situations when it comes to sports. All right. Basketball, when I went to public school all the way throughout elementary school and 2 out of the 3 years in middle school. And then my last year in middle school, my mom put me in a private school. And I went to a private school where, listen, it was like no dogs when it came to sports. And it was a very small Catholic school where we only had 40 people in my 8th grade class. And to just give you an example of the demographic of people that were in that class, I was the only black male student in that entire class. And they had a basketball team that was straight fucking garbage every year. I used to go to church at the same Catholic school, and I did Sunday school at that same Catholic school, and got there in 8th grade. And bringing in a couple of dogs that year, we changed the trajectory of that basketball team. In 1 year, new coach, new players. Shout out my dogs that was on that team. My dog Chris was a baller. My dog Randy was a baller on that team. And I came into that environment, and it change is what made it change, literally. You had to bring in new everything. In my football career, I'll never forget when my cousin took over as the quarterback at the high school I played ball at. I came in as a freshman and played quarterback on JV, and he was the varsity quarterback. That particular team had lost for over 40 years, y'all. We brought in a new coach, new uniforms, new athletic director, and a new quarterback. And we won 9 games that year, went to the playoffs, and then we changed the trajectory of that team throughout the entire time I was in high school. We never had a losing record the entire time that I was there, all the way to the point where when I got up on varsity. To even a smaller example, when I played in the latest intramural league that I played in, we lost for 2 straight seasons. We didn't win a game. It was 23 straight losses. We changed the quarterback. We brought in my dog Hawk, and everything changed. We started winning games, and ultimately that led to us winning a championship in that league. I still got the glass cup upstairs from it, and I used that glass cup. We went to the bar, we poured up and celebrated our asses off. You cannot keep trying to rework the same personnel and think that you are going to get different results. Again, this is the same New York Giants offense that we saw last year, minus Daniel Jones. And when I say that, I don't just mean personnel. We're talking about from the coaching staff. All of it is all the same. You can't expect new results. And that is why today I feel more confident about, agreeing with the fans that are like, hey, just blow this shit all the way up. You're not going to get no pushback from me as far as that stance and that opinion that fans are giving out. And, Yeah, man. It's facts, bro. The one thing I feel you on here is like that opinion being from people that didn't play a sport. And I'm not going to come up here and like Ryan Clark this shit, right? Like y'all saw what Ryan Clark did to Peter Schrager, right? Like it's not to say that those people don't know ball, because like a lot of people put in the time and they never played football, but they just put in the time to study the game, and they are very knowledgeable fans. But that opinion does seem like an opinion from people that didn't play. Like, look, man, if I'm sitting there playing backup quarterback, and I played quarterback as a kid, if I'm sitting there playing backup quarterback and my team is struggling and we got a bunch of jokers out there at the skill position, I don't care. Put me in the game, coach. I think I can be that difference. And you hope that Jackson Dart is looking at it like that from the sidelines. You don't even hope. You know he is. You got to make a change, man. And the more and more I want to wait and have explained these lifelines from Russell Wilson to Jackson Dart that'll help Brian Daboll and the livelihood of him, you know, as an NFL head coach, we got to turn this shit over to Jackson Dart. You know, we really do. Let me see. I think I'm going to call this Trees. Shout out my dog Trees in the building. Everybody knows I love them Trees. He said, I don't want to see Dart play. This offense had terrible scheme. We can't score in the red zone. Did you watch the game yesterday? We are not beating the Eagles. Yeah, I watched the game yesterday. And listen, did you think that the New York Giants were going to beat the Eagles at the end of the 2023 season? Did you think we were going to beat the Eagles when we forced them to take their starters out of the game? I'm sure you didn't. Because if you say you did, that's probably a lie. You play these games at the end of the day to find out what the results are going to be. And any given Sunday is it reigns true, bro. You never know. Did you think that the Cleveland Browns were going to beat the Green Bay Packers yesterday? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you didn't. So I'm not sitting up here telling you that the Giants are going to beat the Eagles. And anybody who knows me on my channel knows that I don't speak in definitive, statements. That's just something I don't do. And I also fucking hate hypotheticals, right? I hate them with a passion. I do. But I do use them as an example at times. But I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that we're going to beat them. But don't you think that that's a better opportunity for Brian Daboll to go out there and win one of those games versus a divisional opponent with Jackson Dart versus finish the rest of the season by just rolling out Russell Wilson? What's that going to do for us? What are we going to learn from that? We already know this team is dog shit. And you know what I'm going to do? Because I love to keep some receipts, Trees. I love them in a friendly way, We're going to take a screenshot of this right here because I want to come back to this after we play these teams. But there's a shot there. There's a chance there. And did I watch the game yesterday? Of course I watched the fucking game yesterday. I watched the All-22 again today. I compiled all the offensive throws for you guys so you can check it out. I'm an avid ball watcher, bro. I don't even like to give opinions immediately after the game because I like to watch the All-22. I see people watch the broadcast cam and then they wake up the next morning without watching the All-22 and say, oh, man, the route concepts down the field weren't good. Well, how the fuck did you know? I'm just the kind of person that all I do is I sit in this studio that you watch me in right here and I study the game. And when I'm not in the studio, I'm upstairs in the living room with the tablet studying the fucking game. And I'm not sitting up here telling nobody that my opinion is better than anybody's, but anyone who watches enough football knows that you can go out there and beat any team on any given Sunday. I bet a lot of people didn't think that the New York Giants were going to beat the New England Patriots after that season where they won every game, and I was one of them. But they played the fucking game and the Giants won. Kyle Gluckney is in the building one time. Shout out Kyle. He says, bro, I swear we are on the same page. Salute, man. And I welcome all opinions, man. Everybody's going to have an opinion. I just say back it with critical thinking, And I am I don't even like to use the word stubborn. But what I am is convince me, right? Like if your opinion goes against mine, convince me on it. Make sure that I understand why your opinion is in that way. And right now, nobody can convince me that there's any reason that the Giants should not be playing Jackson Dart sooner than later. Nobody can convince me on that. Because what is the purpose of it? We're 0-3. We have not seen a team make it to the playoffs since 2018 that started off 0-3, and that was the Houston Texans. They had Deshaun Watson at the quarterback position. Before that, it's been all the way since 1995 with the Detroit Lions and Barry Sanders. If it all pans out the way that it has panned out throughout the last couple of decades in the NFL, the Giants ain't making the playoffs. So if you go out here and you lose to the Chargers, I'd love to see the statistics on teams that are 0-4 making the playoffs, if there has ever even been one. There's no way that you can wheel out Russell Wilson out there again if he continues to put up these measly 150 and 60-yard performances, in my opinion. That's just how I view it. Donnell Prince says, Dart will gel well with John Gruden, and we got a little bit of a taste of that on the quarterback camps with John Gruden. That was a beautiful thing to see, and that really gave me a little bit more, excitement around Jackson Dart, because I'm a guy that had Jackson Dart as quarterback 2 coming into the 2025 NFL Draft. When I watched John Gruden with Jackson Dart and all that confidence that he had in Jackson Dart, that gave me a little bit more reassurance about Jackson Dart and made me feel really good about my opinion on Jackson Dart. So, yeah, man, I think he could gel well with them as well. I'm right there with you, bro. Ben Ayers says, if Dart plays well and we still lose, that still means fire Dable to me. Find ways to win games. I'm not too sure. I'll have to see how it pans out. But I think if Dart plays well and we're still losing games, John Mara might be more willing to keep Brian Dable, as the head coach for the Giants. We'll see. We'll see. Let me scroll down here. This is a hot take right here. Dave Gettleman over Joe Schoen, and that might be true, man. Dave Gettleman had better cornerstone pieces. The cornerstone pieces that Joe Schoen has over here that are contributing to our roster right now are guys that are either Dave Gettleman's guys or guys that he brought in through free agency. Joe Schoen can't draft to save his fucking life. Tree says, Banks was pissed at Bobby Skinner, LOL. So I saw this back and forth going on because I think Bobby said something. He posted the clip of Carl Banks talking about, basically this is not a bad team. And Bobby said something along the lines of, I can't wait until my legends stop embarrassing me. I think it was Sean O'Hara that was on the panel with them. And I agree with a lot from both sides on that, man. It was an interesting back and forth. I didn't get a chance to really look, deep into it. I definitely want to go check it out. But the one thing that I will suggest for all of us as fans, content creators, former players that cover the team, we can't be fighting within. I think that's going to make us look worse. And just don't allow this team to get you all riled up and be screaming at other people that represent that same team. I get it. Some people are going to have some shitty takes. Some people are going to have some great takes. But at the end of the day, man, we, as people were saying earlier on when we were going through the super chats and whatnot, we all we got, bro. We definitely all we got. All right, so let's get to these giant overreactions. I do see it's so much, man. I could sit up here with y'all and talk ball for 12 hours if we wanted to. I think what we'll do is at some point during the week here, we'll just do a straight up Q&A, and we'll just go through the entire chat Q&A style. Do that for 2 hours so that we can really get a little bit more, gauge of the pulse of the fan base and whatnot. But I see a lot of good stuff here, and we just can't go over it all. I don't want this show to be 5 hours like it was after week 1. We absolutely did a 5-hour show. But Jaji05 said, let's not pretend like we don't know who the owner is. He won't be quick to fire Dable and Joe Schoen, but it's simple. Their job will hinge on Dart's progression and success this year, regardless of the W's or the L's. It's a good point for my dog over there, man. Ja definitely always dropping gems. That's a really great point. Let me just make sure. Oh, yeah, so we did get some more super chats. Luis says, you see Bob Papa and Banks going after Bobby today. I didn't see Bob Papa's statements. Definitely going to go back and catch up on them, that back and forth kind of engagement and whatnot. I did bookmark it, so it's there for me to go check it out. We'll see what they're talking about after we get off the stream. But big shout out, Luis, for helping us raise the bar here. Keith Wilson Jr. is in the building one time, man. I appreciate you, my dog, for the $4.99 super chat. He says, if I didn't have my Canes, football would be miserable. Even when New York got stops last night, I had no faith they'd do anything with them. Yeah, I feel you, man. Shout out to your Canes, man. Carson Beck out there playing some decent football. I'm glad we got our quarterback in that last draft because this class is not looking all that great. But big shout out my dog, Keith Wilson, man. That's one of the day ones over here, man. Been rocking out with us for a long, long time. Let me see if I got this one from Charlie Hafter too. Oh, yeah, we did get that one. Yep, we did get that one. All right, so I'm going to go down here to the bottom of the chat. Damn, y'all dropping gems. Shout out Pat Barrios. He said, remember when 2022 beginning we was bringing in wins? Then the last 8 games we won like 1 or 2. I knew he wasn't the coach then. The league figured him out. Yeah, the tape definitely, got out there, and the league has figured out Brian Daboll a good bit here. And that's unfortunate for us, man. That's definitely unfortunate for us. Quota says, I want a coaching staff that would get more out of Banks and out of the Jalen Hyatts on this team. I feel you, man. Jalen Hyatt only played 1 snap, and that was when Malik Neighbors went out with the quick injury, and then he came right back on the field. Let me see. This is another one from Trees. Trees said, I'm trying to see what the first typo is there. Okay, so he's talking about the way that Wink got treated there was an issue. The defense won a lot of those games year one. That and running the ball, not Daboll's offense. So I guess he's saying like he hates the way Wink got treated. And y'all know my opinions on Wink, man. Like Wink, would have loved to still have Wink Martindale here in the building with the New York Giants. It's unfortunate what went down. And I blame all of that on Brian Daboll. That was terrible. Xavier Anderson says, that's what happened with my son. They played the young boy and won 42-14. Sometimes switching it up can just start something. And he's talking about his son in high school right now, who his son got implemented in the game, and they won their first game of the season. He was DMing me some of the tape, man, and he's progressing. He's starting to get, his feet wet, and he's getting much better, man. The arm talent is definitely there. I told you about that RPO. I couldn't tell if it was necessarily an RPO or maybe a play action, but yeah, man, especially on that level, I've seen it happen all too often where you switch the quarterback and boom, you start getting immediate results. And the league don't got much tape on Jackson Dart, so I'd love to see it. Let's see. I saw another one here from JD, who's in the building here. He said, Dart has to start, and those who disagree are goofy. Maybe week 1, let me see, maybe week 1 or 2, you hold him out. But it's obvious now that Russ ain't it. I mean, I think it was obvious that Russ ain't it to start the year, right? Like, Russ gives us competency at the quarterback position, but no way were we thinking that Russell Wilson was going to be like, the future. And then the way that we saw him play so far, it's like, definitely not it. JD also said Scat Pack looking good, and the energy of him and Dart together will be contagious. I do agree. It seems like the team just needs that spark from a young quarterback, man, and got it. We just got to do it. Say Less NYC says, got to play the games. None of us can read the future. 100% agree. DeIlla said, I want to believe Jackson has that fighter's mentality, and he's willing to go through hell to become the player that this franchise needs. How do we figure that out, DeIlla? Put him out there and let him play. Kevin the PRF said nobody picked the Browns yesterday. So I was listening to some spaces earlier, and D-Kit was hosting a space, I think, and he was talking about how, they do like picks, I guess, out of all of them in the chat. And he was talking about how he wanted to pick the Browns badly because of their defense. And even him, after all the, campaigning for the Browns and winning that game, he still didn't have the goal to pick them to win the game. So I'm right there with you. Nobody picked them Browns, bro. Nobody. And they went out there and they won that game. So going back, I'm sure that these comments are about when I was talking about wheeling Jackson Dart out there and trying to get that opportunity to possibly win a game, a divisional game against the Philadelphia Eagles, and what it could do for your franchise. Like, I see the support for it, man, and that's how I'm looking at it. Broken O said the Eagles are vulnerable. I don't think they're as good of a team as Baltimore, Buffalo, or Green Bay. All 3 of their wins have been one-score games. I think Dart can provide some spark to this offense. Let's see it, man. That's how I'm looking at it. Another one, Panthers and the Falcons. A lot of people would have picked the Falcons. I still thought that the Falcons were a team that still needed a lot of work. In a lot of conversations that I've been having, in the offseason, a lot of people were saying, like, Falcons are ready to compete and all this shit. And, like, nah, I don't see it. Their defense is still not built the way that it needs to be. I think they could still, benefit from having another wide receiver, 2, a consistent weapon out there. Kyle Pitts has basically been, like, non-existent. People just, I don't care about being first to a take. I truly do not care about it. Like, I want to be right. I want to be accurate in my assessment, right? And when it comes to real-time assessments, that's when I want to be right. Like, if it pans out later on and it's wrong, I'm okay with it if in real time it was the right decision or it was the right take. So many people just want to be right. Like, you know, they put out these hot takes, and I blame the current state of journalism that we're in right now. Because if you just put out a sound take, nobody's going to give it no attention. You got to put out them hot takes, right, for people to pay attention. And then people always want to be right, but then they also want to ignore when they're completely wrong, which is why I created the Receipt God, right? Because I want people to know that when you go out here on a limb and you make these bold-ass claims that people want to support in real time, when it's absolutely fucking wrong, I want you to know that you were absolutely fucking wrong. I hate hypotheticals, and I hate definitives that are going out there on a limb trying to be the hottest take of the century, right? So that, like, people can be like, yeah, like, journalism is in hell right now. And hopefully I can be a crutch, and the beard can be a crutch and all that to keep us up on one peg leg right now. Because quite frankly, man, the current state of journalism right now is fucking embarrassing, man. It's embarrassing. I don't mind being wrong on something. Like, I really don't. Let's see what else we got. Quota said, bro, y'all got to stop. Mara cares about the image, so he's not bringing Gruden in. That image thing is true. That's true. I don't think Gruden would come in, but, you know, you pray to the football gods that John Mara can find a way to get out his own way. Say Less NYC said, I'm ready for Dart to get a drive or two in one of these horrible games. That was the game, man. Like, yo, it's 20-9, man. What the fuck are we doing? It was 20-9 with 3 minutes left in the game, 4 minutes left in the game. I wanted to see Dart in that game. Like, this whole, like, bringing him in for a play or two, that's goofy shit, man. Like, I don't know what Brian Dable is doing there, and I really do not support that. JDJ said Dan Duggan posted the comments Dable said about Daniel Jones before he was benched, and it's very similar tone to what Dable said about Russell Wilson today. Ooh. Definitely want to keep my eyes on that. Definitely want to keep my eyes on that. Simeon Toko's in the building, said Gettleman was doing the bidding of Mara to appease him and Eli, but he is a much better evaluator of talent than Joe Shane. It's not even close. Brownie said the most important relationship on the team is head coach and quarterback, which is one of the bigger reasons I want Gruden. You can tell he sees something in Dart. Lots of mutual respect there. Yeah, and you could see that Brian Dable sees something in Dart too, but it just seems that Brian Dable might not be the man for the job. Let me see. JW says something about Josh Allen. Shout out JW in the building. He said Josh Allen was bad his first year and turned out okay. I don't know about if he turned out okay. He turned out fucking good. I'll take Josh Allen all day, J-Dub. He said Peyton Manning had arguably the worst rookie year ever and turned out okay. Burrow got beat up and made the Super Bowl the next year. Start Dart. I love this take right here, man. Shout out JW in the building, dropping some gems here. I love that take. Let me just scroll down here and catch up. Shout out Dominic in the building. He said, feel better, chat. Let me just get it on the screen. He said, feel better, chat would be like a prayer received and rewarded. Let me see. Feel better will be like a prayer received and rewarded. I don't know if he's talking about Dart, but yeah, I do agree with the feel better part. Like, bro, don't let this team get y'all too angry. Expect nothing so that when we do get some results, you feel great about it. Dominic also said, Bill Belichick, would it be like a prayer received and granted? You know, I don't know about now. Last year, I would have maybe considered it. But listen, I'm not going to be somebody that's going to come up here, you know, publicly and be like, Bill Belichick, fuck no. I'm not doing that. Like, if they want to bring in Bill Belichick, do it. You know, I want experience, and Bill Belichick has it. I'm okay with that. And Sebastian said, scared money don't make no money. That's facts. Greg said Josh Allen is a generational talent by nature. Dave's had nothing to do with it as we've seen since his departure. I can't push back against that. C-Rob said Mara needs to take a lesson from his father. He took advice in the 70s from the league and brought us George Young and 2 championships. Yeah, the league forced us to do that pretty much, and that's a great point. Tree said we spend a lot of money, though. Look at the salary. It's not like this team doesn't spend. They do. It's just they're probably spending the money in the wrong places. Like, man, when I first saw the Paulson Adebo contract, I was floored. I had no idea he was going to make that kind of money. And when you looked at Over the Cap and their valuation of what they thought he was going to get, they thought he was going to get like $9 million a year. dude ended up going out here getting 54 over 3 years. And I'm a big fan of Paulson Adebo. I'm not going to sit up here and say I did not want Paulson Adebo in blue because he was one of the only free agents I wanted to bring in. We brought him in, and I do think that, the fan base might be being a little bit too harsh on Paulson Adebo. I thought he's played pretty decent. But this the problem. The expectation for Paulson Adebo from Joe Schoen and from the Giants fan base was that Paulson Adebo was going to come in here and be a CB1, bottom line. But when he was with the Saints, he wasn't even their CB1. So definitely something to pay attention to, in the next coming weeks here. JDJ said, what are they teaching Abdul Carter? He's closing out on quarterbacks like they are Steph Curry. I'm actually not mad at how he's closing out on these quarterbacks because they're mobile quarterbacks. That caution that he's approaching the quarterbacks with, I got no beef with it. Just these guys are going to make you miss if you just try to beeline to them. We talked about that a little bit earlier. Black Fox 72 is in the building. That's a new name. Black Fox said Dex is getting simple, or I guess he's saying he's getting double teamed this season. Deepest step by Trash. Let me see. Maybe I'm wrong. Dex is getting simple team this season. Deep. I think he's talking about him getting double teamed. Yeah, the results for Dex just haven't been there. And I don't think Dex is having bad games, but he's not having those game record games, right? And I think that's the thing about Dexter Lawrence. You can double team him and he can have quiet games for sure. David says Adebo got the bag because Shane had to pay players above the norm as a result of not being an attractive team. That's facts. And we all know that when it comes to free agency, teams, tend to overpay. And that's definitely a thing. So we'll catch up with the chat here a little bit more in a second. But I want to get to these 3 giant overreactions, which these are going to be pretty easy if you ask me. Because I think that it's very clear the direction that the Giants are going in. And it's very clear what the fans want right now. And I think we're all almost in agreement here for the most part when it comes to what we want to do moving forward with the New York Giants. And I guess we'll just put these up on the screen and we'll just start with a couple of these and just kind of go over a few numbers and just, go over some of these giant overreactions. And then I'm going to stick to my word here. We're at 2 hours right now. By the time we get to 2.5, we on the clock right now, okay? You are on the clock. 2.5 hours, we're going to get up out of here. So let's go ahead and get off into the first giant overreaction of the day. And just to kind of explain the rules for you guys before we get off into this, for those of y'all that are new here, when you see the statement on the screen, all 3 of these coming from social media. When you see the statement on the screen, if you indeed do not agree with the statement on the screen and you think it's an overreaction, you can put an O in the chat to represent that you think it is an overreaction, and you can put why. If you do agree with the statement on the screen, you can take the under by putting a U in the chat, which represents that you agree with the statement on the screen. And if you kind of undecided and you need some more time on the statement that you see on the screen, you can put a P in the chat and explain why to represent that you are taking the push. So those are the rules. Let's get off into the first giant overreaction of the day. And just for the sake of time, I won't go through all the chat, but I'll just kind of scroll through, highlight a couple of them. This one comes from former NFL quarterback Kurt Benkert, who puts out some really good content nowadays, man. I'm a big fan of Kurt Benkert's takes and also a big fan of his content. But he said the New York Giants need to blow it all up. Now, the reason why I wanted to highlight this one is because when you tell me that a team needs to blow it all up, that means everything. That means the personnel. That means the front office, general manager, coaching staff, all of that. You might even be firing some people working in the cafeteria. So when I think about that, it makes me want to take the push initially on this because I think that the Giants do have a few pieces, right? I looked at this as there are some players that you must keep around. And those players, in my opinion, are Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau is working his way into that category, Malik Neighbors, Cam Scatterbu, and Jackson Dart. And then I think that there are players that you absolutely have to consider. Guys like Drew Phillips, Wan'Dale Robinson, I think, is a contributor as well. You could consider Tyrone Tracy, Tyler Nubin, guys like that. You also got the cornerstone pieces in Dexter Lawrence and Andrew Thomas, who are not getting any younger. The part that gets extremely dicey is when the out on some of these contracts are for some of the players that you signed to contracts in the offseason. Paulson Adebo, 3 years, $54 million. Javon Holland, 3 years, $45 million. Darius Slayton, 3 years, $36 million. What did Darius Slayton have on the day? What he had, like a couple of catches, 2 catches or something like that? Those are the guys that, are you just going to dump the money? I'm unsure of that. I normally don't do this up here on the Giant Overreaction, but for me, I'm absolutely taking the push on this because I'm not sure if they need to blow it all up. You might need to fire your coach. You might need to fire a general manager, maybe retool a few things, but I'm not 100% sure on blowing it all up. Let me see what the chat is talking about here. We'll just scroll back a couple, and we'll see how y'all are feeling about this. Y'all know I like to present topics that are going to split the room, and I absolutely think that this is one that's probably going to split the room. So let's see where we are at with it. I'll start here with We'll start with Pat Berrios. Pat Berrios said he's taking the under. Pat Berrios said he's taking the under again. Welvin said it's an overreaction. Change the coaching and see what happens. The players aren't all awful. I like that take. And I honestly could have leaned towards maybe this is an overreaction because you're saying blow it all up. Michael Minnick said he's taking the under. JD says it's an overreaction. Excuse me, all that soda. He says there are good pieces, man. Running back, good. Quarterback, good. Defensive front, good. Elite wide receiver, 1. Stop letting a few bad pieces ruin the entire bunch. I agree with you on that. That's a good take. Michael Marshall said it's an overreaction. I Am Jarrell says he's taking a U, and he likes this. Blow it all up. He's got, 5 bombs right there. Moet Olson said it's an overreaction. Simio Toko says not everything, just a grenade in the offices. I like that, bro. I like that. B-Rog said he's taking the under. Just keep Malik, Dart, and Burns. I added a couple names to that. I like where you're going with that. Kevin the PRF said he's taking the under. I thought this last offseason, let me see, he says, I thought this last offseason, I guess, was pretty good, I guess is what he's saying there. But drafting start created some pseudo stay of execution. That's worded really fucked up, Kevin. I can't, my brain almost exploded trying to read that, bro. But I get the sentiment there. Big shout out my dog, Kevin the PR. That's 2 weeks in a row you almost had my brain exploding, bro. Berg says he's taking the push. There's talent on this team. We need better coaches. We need a GM who can properly build a team, and we need an overhaul of the personnel department. Agree with you on that. Zeke Anderson said it's an overreaction. Don't need to blow it up, but some cats got to go. Nick says it's an overreaction. General manager, coach, and coordinators need to go. I want to see what we have in Jackson Dart. I'm with you on that. Quota says, so Hurts played bad and they won't with Tua. Got it. I don't know who he's probably, or Juan with Tua. He's probably responding to somebody else. Simeon Toko said, I thought Evan Neal was going to turn into a Pro Bowl guard if he was moved. What happened? I think that was Carl Banks that said that. Yeah. Damn. Shout out to Carl Banks, man. That reminded me of the take that he had last year where he said if Azeez Ojulari stays healthy, he could get like 15 sacks or something. I don't know, man. I don't know if that's shock value from Carl Banks. I might need to bring Carl Banks up here on a Giant Overreaction that is catered to just statements that he's made and just see how he kind of feels about that. That might make for a fucking hell of a Giant Overreaction. I've reached out to Carl Banks a couple times to try to come on the show, and we just never kind of got it ironed out. For y'all and the sake of some good content, I'm going to DM Carl Banks, and I'm going to ask him. I'm going to compile the show. I'm going to create the overreactions, and I'll try to get Carl Banks to come on the show for the next Giant Overreaction that'll be focused on just his takes. Sabrina's taking the push. Lou Mateo says it's an overreaction. Good coaching fixes bad football. Greg Giant says he's taking the push. We have top-heavy talent, Thomas, Burns, Dex, Neighbors, but we lack above-average or average starters. We need a lot more depth and better starters around the board. Solid take right there. DeIlla said a solid 3/4 of a blow-up. Yeah, I'll feel you on that. Shout out Omar Alvarez. He says blow it up. They don't know how to look. Let me see. They don't know how to look, how the GM and Xavier and Saquon ain't get, y'all trying to blow my fucking brain up today, bro. Ain't get a pick for any of them let them go to let them go in free agency, and then he paid people that leave. Yeah, scratching your head. That's fucking crazy right there, Omar. You and Kevin the PRF are trying to kill me. Y'all trying to kill me, man. Shout out Kevin the PRF. He said, drafting Dart. Damn you, spell check. I feel you, man. I'll be typing fast and do that shit too as well. Boss Les says, it's an overreaction. The coaching has to go. Elegante said he's going with the push. We need a president of football operations like a Bill Polian or Tony Dungy. Love that. Love that right there. Love that. Black Fox said, listen, Daniel Jones is 3-0. Yeah, that is a fact. Pat Barrios says, when you say blow it up, I'm thinking from Joe Shane all the way to the water boy. Sheesh. JDJ said it's an overreaction. We have too many pieces that can be salvaged. We've already seen what a good system/coaching does to the players we already have or we already gave away. Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact, bro. That's definitely a fact. JW said it's an overreaction. We need better coaching. The talent is there. Imagine what we'd be with a guy like Kyle Shanahan or a Sean McVay. Yeah, that's a good point, bro. Patrick Grove said, nope, not blowing it up. Talent is difficult to find and play for a while. I like that. Luis says it's an overreaction. We need to send Dable into the sun. C-Rob said he's taking the push. Neighbors, Dart, Carter, they are good players. The coaching staff must go. Yeah, I'm thinking this might be a good one to transition to the next overreaction here. Omar Alvarez says it's an overreaction. Great players on the rosters. We need to get a better GM and a better coach. Tree says they're good players. There are good players here, just not coached well. That's true. Problem is taking the push. Dominic says it's an overreaction. So we're all pretty aligned here. Shout out Rob one time with the super chat, the $4.99 super chat. He said Dave said he's open. Dave said he's open benching Russ, and media ask if their quarterback change. He said everything is on the table. Okay, so I guess what you're trying to say here is that Dave said he's open to benching Russell Wilson, and that the media did ask if there's a possibility for a quarterback change, and he said that everything is on the table. Definitely got to check that out. Rob, if you can, wherever you saw that, as far as the media you saw that on, send me the link on Instagram, man. I definitely want to check that out when I'm done getting off air here. JW said Carl Banks has his heart in the right place, but he's too much of a homer. Yeah, I do agree. Like, his heart is with the New York Giants. He just wants to see us win, man. He definitely just wants to see us win. John B said salt and pepper push. That's for the OGs. Y'all know about that. Let me see. And Black Fox said, look at this. Daniel Jones is on the 3-0 team. The Giants are 0-3. Blow this shit up. Okay, I can understand blowing it up, but Daniel Jones being 3-0 and the Giants being 0-3, to me, that ain't got nothing to do with it. You know, Daniel Jones is on a team that had the luxury of facing a schedule that gives you the opportunity to go 3-0. I would have much rather seen the Titans, the Dolphins, and the Broncos than starting off our season against two divisional opponents, against the Commanders and the Cowboys, and then having to see the Kansas City Chiefs in week 3. And then now we got the Los Angeles Chargers coming to MetLife, who have won 3 divisional games to start the year. Tough. It's tough, man. But, like, man, I don't know, man. Like, for me, and maybe I'm getting a little egregious with this, I just don't give a fuck what Daniel Jones does this year. It just, to me, it screams nothing that involves the New York Giants because we didn't do anything to upgrade that offense. So you should expect those similar kind of results. If Daniel Jones was, that's why I said during the Saquon take earlier, you notice how not a lot of people are saying, oh, Daniel Jones wouldn't have done that here, like how they said with Saquon, right? They're not saying that because they know if Daniel Jones was on this roster, the Giants would be 0-3 just as well. JDJ said Streets is hot right now. Might want to wait a week or two to ask Carl to come on. Yeah, with that whole Bobby Skitter situation, that's definitely facts. But seems like everybody's kind of on the same page on this one. Overreaction or kind of a push. I see Jaji05, and this will be the last one we'll take on this topic, says one reason. This is a quarterback-driven league. If Dart goes out and shows he's a promising elite talent, then nah. Great quarterback play and W's cures all in the league. Great point right there. Great point right there. And let me just scroll down, make sure we good. Patrick Grove said for Daniel Jones, all he needed was to get out of town. It's all in a player's head. It's psychological. I don't agree with that. Daniel Jones is not a quarterback that I feel comfortable moving forward with and saying, yeah, we can win a Super Bowl with that guy. Not me. 3 games might have changed y'all opinion, but definitely not me. But let's get off into this next giant overreaction because a lot of people are talking about the coaching, and I think this is an important topic to just kind of, we'll quickly dive on it, let y'all get y'all opinions out, and then we'll get one more giant overreaction and get y'all up out of here. But let's get off into this second giant overreaction of the day. This one comes from my homie on Twitter, Zach, my homie. 2, can't forget the 2. He said the Giants need to move on from Brian Daboll. The players are not this bad, but the coaching is. And I think a lot of y'all spoke to this on the last overreaction here, right? Brian Daboll's not doing himself no favors, y'all. 18-34-1 record. He's won just 1 of his last 9 games at home. 4-14-1 versus the NFC East, plus the playoff loss where we got dog walked in the divisional against the Philadelphia Eagles. He has not won a divisional game since 2023. The points per game, a lot of the same here, okay? 16 points in 2024, 15.6 in 2023, 21.5 in 2022. The Giants right now are averaging 17.1 points per game thus far. Failed to score 10 points in 2 of the 3 first games of the year. And the Giants have now lost, not that this game mattered, but they have lost 8 straight division games. The Giants need to move on from Brian Daboll. Y'all know I don't want to say I'm taking the push. I agree with this statement on the screen. And I think this is the first time I've really agreed with statements that are saying fire Brian Daboll. But the results just aren't there, man. They just aren't there. And I'll start with this one from JD, who says he's taking the push. JD said he's taking the push. Daboll has to get a chance to play call with Dart. I want to see something before I decide to send him to Alcatraz. Yeah, for those of y'all that don't know about Alcatraz, it's definitely a prison, one of the prisons that they say is the most harsh prison out there. I agree with you, JD. I just can't say that the statement is an overreaction, and I can't take the push. I can't take the easy door out and take the push. So I'm not going to take the push. I'm going to stay in all business, and I'm going to take the under and agree with the statement here on the screen. Lou Mateo said he's taking a push as well. Imagine being given the keys to a Lamborghini in your garage, but you can't open that bitch up. I hope Jackson Dart is a Lamborghini. He might just be like a, he might be like a Tesla, maybe like a bubble Lexus 3S100 or a GS300, in like 93, 94, something like that. I don't know if he's quite the Lamborghini yet, but we shall see. Boss Les taking the under on this one. C. Rob's taking the under. Says you are what your record says you are. When was the last time he won a division game? It's pathetic. Yeah, we went over that. It's bad. B-Rog says, in a results-driven league, all the coaches need to be fired as much as I like them. Nick says he's taking the under. What do you think of bringing in John Gruden as head coach and Antonio Pierce as the defensive coordinator? Take your pick at an offensive coordinator. We talked about John Gruden a little bit. I like John Gruden. Maybe Antonio Pierce didn't get a fair shake with the Vegas Raiders. Wouldn't be mad at it, Nick. Wouldn't be mad at it. Wouldn't be my preference, but I wouldn't be mad at it. Kevin the PRF said he's taking under. Giants offense looks about as basic as I can imagine. I see zero creativity on offense. And that's coming from somebody that's not a New York Giants fan. He's a Commanders fan. So take that as a objective perspective. Greg says he's taking the under. Coaching is holding this team back so much. We would be a top 15, top 18 team with just our players alone. Moet is in the building, says, I would take a chance on John Gruden even with the baggage. He at least knows what he got with Dart. He likes him a lot. I ain't mad at that. Greg says our offensive guru averaged 16.5 points per game last year, and 2 games this year we scored less than 10 points. What guru? Lewis says he's done with Luis. Till you correct me, says he's done with Daboll. I ain't mad at that. Shout out Kareem Yee in the building, one of my day ones. He said the mark of a Dable team is lack of discipline and preparation. Yeah, like, you came out of that game against the Dallas Cowboys where you had 14 penalties for over 160 yards. And, I mean, they really only cut it in half in this game. I think they had 7 penalties on the day, so not all that good. LV says they throw him in at random times in drives just for a run play, then put Russ back in to get bodied by the D-line instantly. It's comical, bro. It really is. A lot of unders. Berg says, Dart or not, this team never looks prepared to play pro-level football. The quarterback is not changing that. That's all on coaching. Shout out Stephen Arce. He said, I can't believe Mero really got wolf ticket by those two. We shouldn't have drafted a quarterback when this class is better. You talking about the 2026 class? Definitely don't agree with you on that. 2026 class is shaping up to be, ugh. It's tough for me to even finish this one, Stephen. Stephen R. said drafting a quarterback a year too early because you needed a quarterback of the future to save the day. I don't think that's why they did it. I think they looked at Dart as a viable option. I mean, let's see. So you got Jackson Dart in this class. You got Cam Ward in this class. A lot of people don't know about Curtis Rourke, who when he gets his opportunity, I can't fucking wait for that, especially with Shanahan. He's learning behind Brock Purdy and Shanahan. If he gets an opportunity, watch. He's going to light shit up. He's another one I'm keeping my eyes on. Dylan Gabriel's going to get his opportunity this year, I think, and maybe Shedeur Sanders might get his opportunity this year as well. You still got Jalen Milroe in Seattle. I don't know, man. I don't know about this class. I'm still skeptical, but I still haven't done the deep dive yet, which will come probably a little earlier than I want it to come. It'll probably be sometime in December. Mostly used, though. Worst red zone defense Jarrell's talking about here. Williams says, I defended Dabes up until last Sunday. Patrick Grove said that Jackson Dart is also a potential weapon. Very true. It's great when you have a weapon at the quarterback position. Jaden Daniels is definitely an example of that. Sabrina says she's taking the under. I'm afraid the coaching is the problem, and Dart might delay the inevitable. I mean, listen, if Brian Dable can go out there and win with Jackson Dart, I'm okay with him keeping his job. Just keep winning. If you guys remember the video I put out at the beginning of the season that's attached to the page, that's, everybody was talking about rookie quarterbacks and Shedeur this, and we need to draft Shedeur. And I said, look, the only thing that's going to save Brian Dable is wins. Tree says, my problem is this team doesn't play discipline, so playing Dart won't make a difference. Even plays, I feel teams play how they practice, and we don't practice the details. That's true. I can't give you no pushback on that. The Illa said, hey, there's no guarantee a new coach would be willing to work with Dart. No guarantee. That's true. Pap said, this is a piss-poor ran team. I got 4 decades into this team. This might be worse than Joe Judge and Ray Handley levels, man. You ain't lying, bro. You ain't lying. You definitely not lying, bro. It's been tough. It's been tough. And like I was saying, we on the clock, y'all. So, let me see. Big loss for the Panthers offense. What's this one? I can't even see the post. Guess they had a major injury. Definitely got to check that out when I get off air. He said, damn, Ray Handley entered the chat. If you know, you know. Those were some tough years for the New York Giants for sure. But let's get to this last one. This one's going to be about the quarterback, Jackson Dart. And, we'll get y'all up out of here. Want to know what y'all talking about this Jackson Dart situation. I think we know a lot of people already, how they feel about Jackson Dart. He should start this week. I've been seeing a lot. But this one came from Reading Eagle on Twitter. Wrote a whole article about this. I recommend you guys check it out. He said the Giants season must be about Jackson Dart after that primetime loss to the Chiefs. And I've had a lot of time to think on this. And I totally agree with this statement on the screen. Like, I would put 1,000 Soldier Boy, Superman U's, right? Like, for this, because you're 0-3 now. You have to find out what you got in your quarterback. And he's Dable's guy. So I think it's important to see him with Dable. And the article started off by saying the Giants are toast. And they are. They're absolutely toast, man. Like I told you guys before, just 2 teams since 1995 have made the playoffs with an 0-3 start. And no team has ever made the playoffs after starting off their season with 2 divisional losses. Now,
This is what he had to say in the article. He said, there's no point in the Giants trotting Russell Wilson onto the field anymore. He was signed here to win games after last season's 3-14 debacle, and that isn't happening. The crazy part about it is, and we focused on this in the offseason. Y'all remember this. Remember the last 5 games of the year for Russell Wilson and how a lot of the blame in Pittsburgh was on Russell Wilson. And I gave pushback that the blame should not all be on Russell Wilson. But I also said that Russell Wilson is the same quarterback that he was, which was average, mediocre type of vibes, right? Even when you saw Russell Wilson last year before the 5-game stretch where he lost all 5 games to the Philadelphia Eagles, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens 2 times, and the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, that competition was tough, and I gave Russell Wilson the out on that. I kind of chalked it up to the Pittsburgh Steelers not being a good enough team to win those games. But when you look back at that and you combine that with this season, Russell Wilson has now lost 8 straight games, y'all. That ain't it. That ain't it. I thought that Connor Hughes summed this up pretty perfect. He said, it's not all Russell Wilson's fault. He's not the reason the Giants were out-schemed, out-coached, and outclassed in Sunday night's 22-9 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. He's not why Joe Shane's draft classes are somehow aging worse than Dave Gettleman's. He's not solely responsible for this once proud franchise developing the one so miserable its own fan base struggles to take them seriously. Not completely, but Wilson also isn't making it any better or helping the situation, certainly not on the field. Each moment he starts is wasted. So while he's not entirely to blame, it's time for the New York Giants to turn it over to Jackson Dart. I'm not the kind of person that, is always trying to be on the cutting edge. But I think that everything that we have seen through 3 weeks of football, for me, I'm going to start Russell Wilson this upcoming week to give me one more game of a buffer. But when we get to the Saints, I'm absolutely starting Jackson Dart. And listen, this post here from the Reading Eagle, I can't express how much I agree with this statement. The rest of the year, even without the 3 losses to start the year, the rest of the year has to be all about Jackson Dart. All about him. Let me see what y'all talking in the chat, and then we're going to beat that clock. We're going to get y'all up out of here. Definitely, let me see, we're at 4:12. We got 4 minutes, so we'll run through this for about 2 minutes, and then we'll get y'all up out of here. So, Nick, we'll start here from Nick, and I see a bunch of U's before it from Boss Les, C-Rob, B-Rog. Yeah. Now, I do want to talk about some of these overreactions, though. Pat Barrios says it's an overreaction. This season must be about Shane and Dable getting their walking papers. That's part of it. But you got to find a way to develop your quarterback. I think that's a good way to put a spin on the overreaction. I like that right there. JD said he agrees. Dart will cook. Believed it in February and still believe it now. Put him in, coach. If he struggles, let him work through it. It needs to be Dart's show starting this Sunday. Let him build with neighbors. I ain't mad at it. For those of y'all that want to start him this Sunday, do it. For me, it will be next Sunday. Boss Les said it's about the development of all our players. Bro, I cannot disagree with you anymore, man. This got to be about the quarterback, bro. Like, you look at some of the pieces that are on this roster, and a lot of them don't even need to develop. When you look at guys like Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Andrew Thomas, Javon Holland, Paulson Adebo. Let me flip to the offensive side of the ball here. Is that really it? That's all our guys? Jermaine Illuminor, John Runyon Jr., JMS, that guy's fucking cooked. Andrew Thomas at the left tackle, who I already mentioned. Those guys don't need development. What are we developing? Jalen Hyatt? Cam Scadaboo's a running back. I don't even look at running back as a position that needs to be developed. I disagree with this one, Boss Les. Definitely. We got a huge U from Nick. He said, we're out of the playoffs, and it looks like our coaches and general manager are set up to get fired. Who cares about hurting Russell Wilson's feelings? We got to find out what we have. Don't wait another week. Dominic says Mahomes had to wait till he got a new coach to win the championship, so maybe a new coach. Nah, this ain't accurate, though. Patrick Mahomes didn't have to wait to get a new coach. Andy Reid was there his rookie season. Andy Reid drafted Patrick Mahomes, and they sat him on the bench because they had Alex Smith, who was excelling and winning games. So unless this is worded a little bit incorrect, I'm not sure. Stephen R. says he would give Russell Wilson one more week as well. I'm right there with you. Yeah. You all day from Lou Mateo. Kevin the PRF says you, although I personally wouldn't feed him to the Chargers, I'd start him in week 5. That's how I'm looking at it too. So we all locked in on that. A bunch of yous, man. A bunch of yous. Lou Mateo said you can't teach an old dog new tricks. JDJ said we already know why Russ is here. He'll be great on Good Morning America. He would be. That's a good point there, too. Yeah. So y'all know what it is. Tree said week 5. We all in agreement there. We're all in agreement there, y'all. Let me see. Jermaine Bryan said, no, we need. There's a little typo here. No, we need him to hit the fast forward button on Dart playing this week. Okay, he's saying this week. I say week 5. This week, I ain't going to give y'all no pushback. Y'all know what it is, man. Shout out to everybody for rocking out with us today, man. You know, we kind of had to shortly go through the Giant overreactions because there's really nothing to overreact to, y'all. Like, this is a bad football team. And it starts up top. It starts with the coaching. The coaching is absolutely the big reason why this team is so bad. And I think now that we've gone through 3 weeks of football, we kind of know what the identity or the lack of the identity that the New York Giants have here. What should have been the identity, which was the pass rush, looks to be a pretty average unit thus far. So the Giants got to keep building. You know, and when it comes to blowing up this team, I think you got to look at that defensive front and consider keeping that unit together and, you know, waiting on those results. 3 games is not enough to try to blow that up. So I do think that, you know, when it comes to the trade deadline in week 8, the Giants aren't necessarily going to be straight up sellers. I think it's important that the Giants try to just build more continuity through the end of this season and figure out what you got from your rookie quarterback. That is most important moving forward. As we saw in the last Giant overreaction, that's what this season should be about, the development of Jackson Dart. I know some people want to look at it as far as other players on the roster and whatnot, but for me, it's straight up with the quarterback because we got to find out if Jackson Dart is indeed that guy. And if I'm John Mara, I'm applying some pressure. Those lifelines we talked about early on in the stream, if Brian Daboll tries to milk those lifelines and we get to even past the trade deadline and Russell Wilson is still being wheeled out as the starting quarterback for the New York Giants, I think we got a major problem. And from up top, we need to make a decision here. John Mara's got to come down and say we need to see the kid. I would love to see at least 10 games of Jackson Dart in the 2025 season to be able to go into 2026 knowing what we have there from a starting quarterback perspective. But we shall see, man. Big shout out to all of you guys for tuning in, rocking out with us today. I see Michael Knight got one more question. We'll take this question and then get y'all out of here. He says, question, do you think the players know that the coaching is no good? I don't think so. You know, I know a lot of people are pointing to the coaching staff, right? Sometimes you're just not good enough. Even good coaches lose games. We saw Bill Belichick when he was with Cleveland. They stunk it up. But, you know, I do think that there are glaring issues with this coaching staff. But to say that, hey, you bring in a new coach with this exact same team, do y'all think we'd get wins? I don't think so. I think that this is just a poorly built team thus far. I thought that this was a team that was going in the right direction, right? But when you look at this offense, we saw it already with another quarterback, and it wasn't good. What gave us pause to think that this year this offense was going to be able to score a bunch of points? I don't know. So at the end of the day, the players got to go out there and play and win games. And right now they're not doing that. So, yeah, I don't think they know the coaching is no good because they're going out there week in and you know, doing their part, man. You know, I never question effort from NFL players unless you, like, blatantly see it on the field. But I don't question effort. Like, most of these dudes don't even got to love the game. Like, they could literally, like, just rely on their skill set and be able to win games. So, yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. Heck your boy, shout out Heck your boy, man. I didn't see you throughout the whole stream. He said if our offense looked competent at all, I wouldn't care about what Daniel Jones is doing. But the fact that our offense looks the same without Daniel Jones admits it makes our coach look worse. Wait till you see Jackson Dart. Because, listen, what did y'all think Russell Wilson was? Who did y'all think Russell – what version of Russell Wilson did you think you were getting? I mean, I posted as much content as we could on Russell Wilson throughout the year for you guys to go check. He relied on his defense last year to set him up in great field position to be able to score touchdowns and the deep ball, and we're getting that. intermediate shit's not there, man. It's just not there. So for me, it's like the Giants offense just needs more players that make plays. The only like gripe that I had with the coaching from an offensive perspective in this game, and this will be the last thing we speak on, was the inability to scheme Malik Neighbors up on short concepts. Like, where were the bubble screens? You couldn't get the ball down the field because they were clearly playing too high. Where were the bubble screens? Where were the quick hitters? We didn't see that stuff. And I thought that was the most puzzling part of the game plan from Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka. But we'll see. And Marjorie says, thanks, Authentic. Great show as always. Salute to Marjorie. That's the queen over here on the AATB Vibes. Definitely appreciate you always rocking out with us. That's a true day one right there, Marjorie. I'm just reading this last one from Bergs. He said, Berg said, I thought with the defensive additions and Russ being okay-ish, we'd be able to steal some games. But damn, bro. That's true. That's true. And I think those games are still there to be stolen. But they weren't here in the beginning of the season, right? I want to say but like I did see a lot of people saying like, the schedule don't mean nothing. Yeah, I didn't say that. And the first half of the schedule, we knew it was going to kind of go like this. When we get to the back half of the schedule, I think we'll get some of those wins you're talking about there. But we'll see, man. Off Broadway said, Authentic, great show as always. Thanks for bringing us through this part of the day. All day, man. All day, man. Y'all know what it is. It's all love, man. And y'all make this that much more enjoyable. So big salute to y'all, man. Biceps in the chat before we get up out of here. To my people that are watching the replay, I don't want to keep doing the fist emoji for when you get to this point because then y'all might start cheating. Let's go with the deuces emoji this week for if you made it to this point in time at the 2-hour, 35-minute mark of this stream. But, man, again, salute to y'all. Y'all know that we can't do this without y'all. We really cannot do this without y'all. We would do it without y'all, but we can't do this without y'all. Salute to y'all, man, for supporting this channel, supporting what we do, supporting this lifestyle of being able to talk ball on Bleacher Report and YouTube. I can't thank y'all enough for this. That's from the bottom of my heart, man. I really mean that. Like, y'all eagerness to pull up to these streams week in and week out makes it that much more enjoyable for me to be able to do what I do up here and continue to do what the theme of this show is and the way that we end every show over here on Authentic in the Beard, which is keep raising that bar, keep living those dreams because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. And a life without dreams is a life in black and white. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT Combat Jack, the New York legend. And keep dreaming, y'all. In your day-to-day life, I know it's Monday. It's going to be a long week before we get to Thursday. But like I said, I am going to pop up and do another version of the Giant Overreaction. Might pop up tomorrow. We'll see. This might be one of those weeks, y'all, where we just go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know about Friday. I need my Fridays, y'all. We'll see. But again, man, can't thank y'all enough. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Monday evening. I know I will. I'm about to just kind of cool out, relax, man. Try to just tap in on some music vibes and whatnot. And, yeah, man, I hope this is a speedy week for y'all. Keep your eyes peeled for another stream coming up over the next couple of days. If it's not tomorrow, I promise y'all I'll be here at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to do that Q&A on Wednesday. So if I don't see y'all tomorrow, I'll see y'all then, man. Again, thank y'all. Thank y'all. I really can't thank y'all enough, man. Enjoy the rest of y'all Monday. I know I will. Y'all be easy. Peace.
Spike don't care.